6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you, oh my goodness, so much news over the night happening. Judge dismissing the Trump classified documents case. We're going to get to Chris Murray here in just a second to provide some analysis on that. And then the man himself, Donald John Trump, attending the RNC, walking out, bandaged on his ear 48 hours after an attempted assassination. It was a powerful evening at the RNC. Check out our friend Tim Scott.
Wow! Thank you so much. If you didn't believe in miracles before Saturday, you better be believing right now. Thank God Almighty that we live in a country that still believes in the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the Alpha and the Omega. And our God still saves, he still delivers, and he still sets free. Because on Saturday, the devil came to Pennsylvania holding a rifle, but an American lion got back up on his feet and he roared. Oh yeah, he roared.
We got all the best speeches from last night's RNC convention, and JD Vance, the vice presidential nominee for president, the Republican vice presidential nominee for president. What did you think of that choice? I want to get to all of this and more. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We've got a whole lot to cover today. Randy Corporon will be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour, giving us an update from the Colorado delegation attending the RNC convention. We'll hear from the White House news correspondent from Salem in the 8 o'clock hour, as well as Greg Lopez, congressman from Colorado Congressional District 4, and then Tom Tradup, vice president of news and talk programming for Salem, also at the RNC convention, will be joining us. There is no better station in this state that'll be covering the entirety of the RNC convention, the choice of JD Vance, and the U.S. or the case against Donald Trump on the classified documents being dismissed. All of that and more right after the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Action-packed show today with you and Billy. 62 and sunny in Denver right now, expecting highs in the upper 80s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Well, the former president made his way into the RNC, and Democratic Colorado Representative Steve Woodrow has apologized for a social media post he made following Saturday's attempted assassination, the buddy of Jeff Hunt.
I'm sorry. So sorry. See ya, Steven.
Well, after it happened, here's what he said, quote, if you hadn't seen it already. The last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil, but here we are. He later backpedaled, saying he condemns the attempt on Trump's life in the most forceful terms, Jeff. So he's walked that back. So you must have pressured him so much.
Oh my
Jeff.
goodness. Yeah. So if you missed anything about yesterday's show, back in after the Club Q shooting, like 20 minutes after it took place, Stephen was on Twitter blaming me for that because apparently being a Bible-believing Christian is the reason that happened. But so he's been a disaster with his own little Twitter account, even at one point liking the tweets of a porn star while sitting on a committee meeting down at the state capitol. So, Timothy Hernandez took the long walk off of a short plank. So did Elizabeth Epps. And I think now it's time for Stephen Woodrow to find a new line of career.
Stephen Woodrow. See if you can remember his name in a year. We shall see. With the bandage over his right ear, former President Trump made his way to day one of the RNC. Day 2 is today, and they'll focus on immigration and crime. Trump selects Ohio Senator JD Vance as his running mate, a Marine, Ivy League, grew up poor as dirt, and the Marines made him.
When the president called me today to actually formally offer me to become, the vice presidential nominee, which just sounds crazy. My 7-year-old son was sort of making noise in the background. I'm getting so embarrassed. But then he actually has me put my 7-year-old son on the phone. You think about this, everything that's happened, the guy just got shot at a couple of days ago, and he takes the time to talk to my 7-year-old. It's a moment I'll never forget.
That is awesome. I think that's a great pick. The theme in Milwaukee today will be Make America Safe Again, with speakers on deck to talk about supporting law enforcement and securing the southern border. Imagine that. President being pressed to explain how he can turn down the heat in political discourse. In an interview with NBC News, Lester Holt asked Biden several times how he could contribute to toning down the rhetoric. Biden said he doesn't engage in that kind of language, while listing a number of times he thinks Trump did. Here, I can help.
I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
If reelected, he will be a dictator on day one.
MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans quote a clear and present danger to our democracy.
And the day before, he told donors, time to put a bullseye on Trump. The FBI says their search of the Bethel Park, Pennsylvania home of Thomas Crooks is complete. The Bureau finished their search on Monday after combing through the residence where the 20-year-old who shot former President Trump and 3 others lived. The biggest issue, though, is how he got on the roof, and the Secret Service couldn't prevent it, as supporters continued who were there to point him out to the police and authorities and probably detail several minutes before he started shooting. This is chilling once again if you haven't heard it 3 days later.
Look,
they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there. See him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And so I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look. There he is.
Because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals.
He's on the roof. He's right.
Dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You want right on the roof again.
Just incredible. That's almost a minute. And then there's another minute there, as you've seen, I'm sure, over the weekend and on Monday and now into today. Colorado's Lauren Boebert says it was intentional, or the Secret Service was grossly incompetent, and she's introduced a bill to hold them accountable. Governor Polis has ordered all flags at half-staff today in honor of firefighter Corey Comprator, who was shot and killed during the assassination attempt at the Trump rally. Good move.
Really? Polis did that?
Yeah.
I know Glenn Youngkin
awesome.
Did, but Polis, that's a hat tip to the governor.
Absolutely. Great move. I saw that, and it made me feel good, because that guy was an American hero, great father, loved Jesus and the country, and man, wow, what a story. So, live free or die, as we talked about over the weekend. A motorcyclist is dead following a fiery Monday night crash in Boulder County on 287 and Isabel Road. Officials say the biker ignored a traffic signal and collided with an SUV, which caught fire. The SUV's driver was able to escape the fire. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplaceandpatio.com. It's 58 in Castle Rock, 59 in Westminster, 62 in Denver. And Jeff, I have to ask you still there?
I'm here. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Hey, listen, who is this band? Six Wire? Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Oh my goodness! Last night I'm
Oh,
watching
were they
the
the ones?
RNC.
Were they the ones playing all the little music in between?
Oh my goodness, they are incredible! Can you hear this? 4 hours and they were good, man.
It is fun. It is the whole atmosphere, right? You got the folks wearing the funny little elephant hats, and
Right?
everybody just having a good time being a Republican. It's great.
Oh man, they were awesome. They just kept on going. It's pretty good though.
They're a house band out of Nashville is who they are.
Is that who?
Yeah.
Man.
So they're
Wow.
a bunch of basically they're a lot of studio musicians, house bands, stuff like that. Guys that play on records and do stuff without getting a lot of the credit. So
Gotcha.
incredibly talented musicians, yes. And they kind of
Wow.
get together. It's basically like, think of it as the low rent version of Garbage, if you guys are familiar with that band, but you probably aren't.
No,
Same
I'm
thing.
not.
Same
Please,
thing. Basically, they got Shelley
only
Manson and a
you.
bunch of big music producers behind the scenes
Jeez.
doing the
Okay,
game. Same thing here. Same thing here. Really talented. Yeah, very talented group of
Wow.
individuals. Yeah.
They're amazing. I'm gonna let this play for 6 seconds and I'm gonna get out of here. Bus.
All right, the big headline coming out of the Washington Post: Trump's classified documents case dismissed by Judge Eileen Cannon. A judge on Monday dismissed the federal indictment against former President Donald Trump on charges of mishandling classified documents, his second seismic legal victory in less than a month after a historic Supreme Court decision on immunity. U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon's 93-page ruling that special counsel Jack Smith was improperly appointed is a triumph for Trump, even if it is eventually reversed. Smith's office vowed to appeal the ruling, saying the judge's legal reasoning was at odds with past decisions on the issue. To provide some insight on this is Chris Murray. He's a partner with First and 14th Law. Chris, coming to us live from Milwaukee. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Bill.
All right, let's dive into this decision. What does it mean? And give us some insight as to, kind of what Eileen Cannon was thinking.
Well, I mean, look, first, let's leave the legal piece aside, or sort of the legal nerd stuff aside for a second. What it means is that the biggest case that was continuing against President Trump just got dismissed on the first day of the Republican National Convention. So a huge win for him. And it really, it really means that the legal jeopardy of former President Trump is, there's no case really remaining that could prevent him from campaigning for president. And that would kind of sit over his head before the election.
And, many folks, including on this show, said this was the case that people felt was the most serious and had the strongest likelihood of being a real challenge for the former president. Was that your analysis?
Yes. I mean, I would say absolutely. In fact, I think I talked about this case on your show before. The theory behind this case was, remember, there were all these documents and boxes of documents that were at Mar-a-Lago, and including several, I won't say boxes, but several categories of documents that were requested by the National Archives, and that President Trump, for whatever reason, had difficulty returning. The fact pattern here was some of them, after he was asked about them, were moved to different parts of Mar-a-Lago. And, the laws are protecting classified documents are incredibly tough. The real best defense that Trump had before what got this case dismissed was, what about Joe Biden's garage and Hillary Clinton's email server, which I think, like most Americans, understood. Why is Trump getting prosecuted for this and those folks aren't? But the pure facts of this case were really tough for President Trump.
So he wasn't found not guilty. Let's talk about the actual decision that came from Eileen Cannon. This wasn't a dismissal of the case based upon, the idea that Trump was innocent of these charges. Has to do with the constitutionality of the appointment of Jack Smith as special counsel. Can you dive into those details?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it was. And Trump's team raised this, I want to say, they filed this motion to dismiss, I want to say, back in February, and said, hey, look, Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, he's appointed under Department of Justice regulations, but these regulations are not constitutional. Because what they allow the attorney general to do is pick a private citizen, which is what Jack Smith was, right, who does not share, who has not been appointed by the president of the United States to share in the prosecutorial power of the country. And it essentially allows the attorney general to appoint somebody to the office of special prosecutor, and the Constitution doesn't allow that. The president has to make those appointments. And the very thing that these regulations are supposed to do, which is, or at least that Merrick Garland said they're supposed to do, which is allow him to hand off prosecutorial authority when it's politically necessary or convenient, that whether that's a good idea or not, it's just not allowed under the Constitution. So because Jack Smith was unconstitutionally appointed, and because he is the one who brought these charges, the case has to be dismissed. It does not prevent Merrick Garland and the Biden Justice Department from bringing the charges again through a duly appointed prosecutor. It just means that Jack Smith cannot be the one to bring these charges.
So would the next step then be either an appeal on this issue, or would Joe Biden just reappoint somebody like Jack Smith to continue the investigation?
I mean, well, it looks like for now there's going to be an appeal, but I'll tell you that, you know, in my mind, if the Biden administration is really serious about this, right, I guess they could appoint like a sitting U.S. attorney to take over the prosecution and make Jack Smith like, you know, that person's special helper or something. The problem is that the Biden administration has painted themselves into a corner, right? Remember how Jack Smith got appointed? I mean, it was as soon as Donald Trump said, "Hey, I'm running for president again," Merrick Garland said, "Oh, well, you know, now that he's running for president, I need to, you know, we can't be seen prosecuting a political opponent. So I'm going to appoint an independent special prosecutor to make the decision on whether or not to prosecute this guy." And Jack Smith is that quote unquote independent special prosecutor. So if the Biden administration follows that by saying, "Never mind, we don't need an independent special prosecutor, we're going to prosecute him ourselves," you can imagine the hay that Donald Trump would make with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of hay, the left is making hay that Judge Eileen Cannon is a partisan judge, that she's doing this because she was appointed by Donald Trump, and that's why she dismissed the case to reward the man that appointed her. In your opinion, Chris Murray, partner at First and 14th Law, is this a balanced, reasonable approach to this case?
I mean, this is actually a really tough issue. I mean, the issue is whether or not the Attorney General, right, whether his appointment of Jack Smith is tantamount to the appointment of an inferior officer of the United States, right? And an inferior officer of the United States is somebody like, you know, an assistant United States attorney, right? Nobody argues that, you know, U.S. attorneys across the country or the Attorney General of the United States can't hire line prosecutors to help do their job, right? Or whether, you know, so the argument in this decision is, and the argument that Trump's lawyers made is that no, hold on. You can hire line prosecutors, no problem, right? And these are the prosecutors who bring 99% of cases for the federal government. Of course you can hire those people, and the president doesn't have to appoint every single one of them. The difference is under these DOJ regs that you use to hire Jack Smith made the decision of whether or not to bring these specific charges in place of, expressly in place of, the Attorney General, which means that actually you've appointed an officer of the United States. And I've been on your show talking about what an officer of the United States is. And an officer of the United States under the Constitution is somebody who is exercising real executive department, right? Real executive branch authority, like decision-making authority. And those people are ordinarily subject to Senate confirmation. Eileen Cannon said, whatever Jack Smith is, he's not an inferior officer. He's not a typical line prosecutor. And so Merrick Garland can't just hire him or appoint him.
So, Chris Murray, why do you feel that Eileen Cannon rejected stare decisis in her decision here? Because this issue has been adjudicated for years. Walking into this hearing that she held, there was almost universally in legal theory, this had already been settled, that she was going through something that had already been decided. Why did she go against the prevailing ruling saying it was allowed?
So, and I'll be honest with you guys. Like, so that's a 93-page ruling. I'm out here at the Republican National Convention. I'm actually working on ballot access for President Trump in all 50 states. So I have not gotten all the way through all 93 pages, but I think I understand what the basis of her decision here was. And I'll say, Bill, by the way, your question is fair because this issue has been explored with in the context of other former special prosecutors, there have been special purpose special prosecutor statutes passed before. And the reason it seems to me that she has decided to say, I'm just not sure that Jack Smith fits all these other cases or that these other cases are correct, because there's no circuit precedent in her circuit, right, that bound her on the special prosecutor issue, was the words of the Biden administration, that they needed somebody to make the decision about whether or not charges were appropriate here. And I think what she said is, look, I've got to take them at their words under these regs, like what it is that Jack Smith was doing. And to me, this looks like something that, if it has ever been allowed before, has been allowed by an act of Congress. And I'm not sure whether those acts of Congress are legal or not. But what I do know is, here all I've got is a Department of Justice regulation where the Attorney General gives himself the power to do this. And I think that makes this different than some special prosecutors that everybody's heard of before, like, for example, the special counsel that investigated President Clinton in Whitewater, Ken Starr.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because my understanding of the case law is that it's already been adjudicated that the independent counsel appointments don't violate the appointment clause. And the part that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around, and that means fundamentally Eileen Cannon thinks that the Attorney General of the United States should never recuse him or herself from any case, because that's why we get these special counsels. That's why Jeff Sessions appointed Mueller, why Bill Barr appointed Durham, why Joe Biden appointed not only Jack Smith, but also Weiss. So the question would be, what I'm hearing from Eileen Cannon, I just want your interpretation on this. I'm hearing from Eileen Cannon, Jeff Sessions was wrong to recuse himself. Bill Barr also wrong to recuse himself and should have personally investigated the deep state instead of John Durham. And also, it was wrong to appoint a special prosecutor in Hunter's case. So in theory, we should be overturning Hunter's case immediately based on his conviction, because that was wrongly prosecuted. That's what I'm hearing from Eileen Cannon. Why am I wrong?
Well, so we can go to Hunter's case in a second, Bill, because I think that is, I actually think all of these are a little bit different, right? But again, I think it's a fair question. Here's the little bit different part, right? All of those prosecutors were already independently confirmed officers of the United States. Okay, so Bill Durham, for example, he was a congressionally confirmed United States attorney. The office that prosecuted Hunter Biden, right? That was a different U.S. attorney than the U.S. attorney for the District of Delaware, but it was an independently confirmed U.S. attorney, right? And that was the big sticking point in Eileen Cannon's decision, is Jack Smith was not Senate confirmed. He's not a U.S. attorney from another district being moved into this district to handle the prosecution and make the prosecutorial decisions on this case because of a worry that the attorney who would ordinarily do it can't handle it, right? He was essentially a private citizen who was just given the prosecutorial power of the U.S. without any say from the Senate. And
couldn't we though say then we shouldn't go through confirmation hearings for Supreme Court justices, because they have technically already been confirmed at the federal level? They go through two separate confirmation hearings. Why would we not then do two separate confirmation hearings in the example of Durham or anybody else, or even in Weiss? Because if the issue is just confirmation, we should never have to hold a confirmation hearing for Supreme Court justice, if that is Eileen Cannon's logic. That's why I think that she fails this test, because that's her logic. That once you go through a confirmation hearing, she's assuming you're always confirmed. I disagree. I don't think that's the premise at all.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've got to disagree with you there, Bill. I mean, I think that, so like for the office, I mean, you point out that, like, let's say, I think a couple times ago I was on your show and I was joking about Antonin Scalia's Supreme Court confirmation hearing at the Senate, right? And when he was up for Supreme Court confirmation, he was already a confirmed judge of the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
the office of Supreme Court Justice and the office of Circuit Court Judge are two different offices. And what nobody's arguing, and I don't think Cannon is arguing, that if somebody's going to be a prosecutor, right? If you've already been confirmed as a prosecutor in another district, you don't need to be confirmed. That the Attorney General can say, Attorney General, or U.S. Attorney for the District of Colorado, hey, welcome to Maine. We've got a special case here. I'm going to transfer this case to you. You're running it, right? Because all of those U.S. attorneys answer to Merrick Garland. On the other hand, if it's, hey, I'm going to take a case away from myself or from another U.S. attorney, and the person who is going to take that, so I'm going to take a case away from a Senate-confirmed officer of the United States in the Justice Department, and I'm going to give it to not another Senate-confirmed officer of the United States, but instead I'm going to give it to a guy that I picked up off the street and who I've asked to exercise the judgment that would ordinarily be exercised by an officer of the United States. That's where I think Eileen Cannon is drawing the line. Now,
yeah, and that's honestly where I think that she's wrong about drawing the line, because what she's saying is that for every time you move to a new job, you need a new appointment. And I think she's wrong based on the case law, because they've said numerous times, courts have ruled that the Attorney General appointing someone in this way does not violate the Appointments Clause, that the Attorney General should be allowed to choose and designate who prosecutes these cases. That's been adjudicated. That's why I think that she's wrong on this one, because her core is, if you're going to give the person a new job, they need to have a new confirmation. That's her core argument. And it fails over and over again. It doesn't functionally work, nor do we do it. I think she's completely wrong on this. I think she's going to be overturned personally. But again, I'm not the law talking guy on the Jeff and Bill show. That's you.
Well, no, but look, she may be, there is an argument, right? There is an argument that she ought to be overturned. But all I'm trying to say is that I think the argument that she is making in her decision, and sort of like Bill, you might say it's the thin reed she's chosen to walk out on, right? And I'm going to say sort of, the line that she's chosen to draw, this line has not really been exactly drawn before, right? The difference between, hey, can you take a U.S. attorney somewhere, right? Somebody who is already a major officer a principal officer of the United States in the Justice Department, and give them another principal officer's portfolio, right? Versus, can you take somebody who is not an officer of the United States and give them a principal officer's portfolio? That has not precisely been decided. And Bill, I hear what you're saying. You're saying, hey, look, come on, man, this is like a distinction without a difference. Like, this cannot be what the Appointments Clause means. Well, fair enough.
History-wise, it doesn't say that's what the Appointments Clause mean. The history of the Appointments Clause doesn't say that either. If we're going back to originalism and federalism, as far as what it meant by it, that wasn't at all. She's creating a barrier that didn't exist historically, which is weird given the Supreme Court's insistence on originalism. This thing isn't held up in history at all. That's the problem that she's got.
So I actually think there's a way deeper argument there. I don't know how far you want to get into it. Like,
we probably don't have the time, but yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah. But there's a really fair point there, which is I think a lot of your listeners are smart enough to get there's originalism, and then there's like Clarence Thomas levels of originalism.
Yeah.
Okay. And Clarence Thomas would say, what's so the whole distinction between principal and inferior officers of the United States under the Appointments Clause and all of that law is completely messed up, right? Of course, Clarence Thomas would say, of course you can hire a clerk, right? If you're a federal employee, a federal officer, right? What Clarence Thomas would probably say is, if that person is exercising any kind of decision-making authority, guess what? They have to be appointed by the president, whether they're subject to Senate confirmation or not.
Yeah, and some of the problem I think that will also hurt, I think, Cannon on appeal is the idea being, one, it discourages recusal from the Attorney General, and also ensures that unless a single party holds the White House and the Senate, you never get another special prosecutor ever. You will never have that happen. And that is basically a breaking of the system. It's basically saying the DOJ can't recuse itself, has to investigate cases in which it can have conflict of interest, because we can't assume that the legislature can functionally do their job properly.
Well, man, and that's back to the question that you asked a minute or two ago, right? Which is like, is what she's saying, right? Hey, that Merrick Garland should never recuse himself, right? That he should never have appointed Durham, right? And so, but there's two separate questions, right? One is he should never have appointed Durham. No, that's not what this says. Like, this says you can appoint somebody to take over another prosecutor's job as long as they're already a principal officer of the United States. But the broader question of, geez, we shouldn't have a special prosecutor unless they're already in that person's Justice Department. That is exactly what she's saying. And I agree with you that I think there's a lot of people, Bill, who would say, geez, I'm not so sure that that's a good idea. But I think the logic of her decision is, no. Look, the AG has to own what his department does, and that there must be political accountability, right? Even in the matter of prosecutions, that this is the way a unitary executive works. And that's, I think that's what she thinks the appointments clause is about. She may end up being wrong about that. But I think she would say that's exactly right in general, Bill. Like, we shouldn't have special prosecutors.
Now, last question, because we're going really, really long. I'll say that for next time. The idea of, I shouldn't. This is going to open up camel worms. No, I got to be better about this. No. But it'd be a very fun conversation. We'll do it next time.
Chris Murray, partner with First and 14th, providing some analysis on the decision coming out yesterday that Trump's classified documents case being dismissed. We'll continue to watch this. Fascinating legal discussion between you two. Bill, let's just give you an honorary law degree. Huh?
No, that would be dangerous. No, don't do
that. Chris Murray taking time out of a very busy schedule at the RNC convention to join us. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, it's a pleasure as always. All right, take care.
Speaking of good attorneys, I want to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. I've known Dan for well over a decade. He's pro-life. He's pro-family. He's pro-America. You can trust him that he's going to represent your values. He's also the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But listen to this. Not only is he a guy that supports your values, he's a guy that is a titan in the courtroom. He's believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. They trust him as well. Dan Caplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. He's not just reserved only for the rich and wealthy. He accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call. He'd be my first call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P LIS.law.com. We'll continue. We'll get into the discussion about JD Vance coming up next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Former President Donald Trump made an appearance on the first night of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just 2 days after he survived an assassination attempt at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, Trump's right ear was covered with a large white bandage. The former president will be formally nominated as his party's presidential candidate on Thursday, when he'll give a primetime speech. His newly announced running mate, Ohio Senator JD Vance, is set to speak on Wednesday. It's Prime Day when the world's largest online retailer, Amazon, slashes its prices to entice buyers. But as Tony Waterman explains, other major retailers are trying to ride that Amazon wave.
It may be branded as Prime Day, but the sales run for 48 hours, and not just on Amazon. Other large retailers, including Walmart, Best Buy, and Target, are dropping some big deals of their own to try and cash in on the summer sale. And for good reason. Last year, Amazon sold more than 375 million items during Prime Day, totaling nearly $13 billion in sales.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy, I want to get into this all into the next hour as well. JD Vance, 39 years old. Have you read Hillbilly Elegy?
No, I have not. No.
I got the audio version yesterday. I'm going to dive into it.
Oh, yeah? I've done part of the movie, but I haven't been all the way through it.
So I got to pull up on my X account. What do you think of JD Vance? Good pick for VP? Yes, no, or meh? 65% saying yes, 5% saying no, and about 30% going meh.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where I started yesterday. I was looking for Tulsi, man. I thought Tulsi or Ben Carson would be great.
Hey, did you hear? I was this close to being right. That the story behind the scenes is that Trump really liked Rubio, but it was the residency thing that he couldn't get over. That the story that I'm hearing behind the scenes is that his preference was for Rubio. And then eventually it was actually preference after that was for Burgum. And that Eric and Don Jr. came to him and said, no, look at JD Vance. We like JD Vance. He gives you this.
I heard it was the young ones too.
Yeah, and made the sell. But yeah, that's and I don't know. I mean, with Vance, if he doesn't deliver veterans, this is a waste. That's basically what he has to do. He has to deliver veterans.
That's the reason why. Okay.
Yeah. It's because that or Ohio. It's either he's banking on I got to have that state, and I think I have the math, and that puts me over the top, or it's veterans. That's the only two plays. Otherwise, it makes no sense whatsoever. This makes no sense to get the white venture capitalist guy.
That's where I'm kind of like,
yeah.
Okay, so working class. Well, I think Trump's locked that up.
Yeah.
So we'll get into all of this and more. I want to continue to cover it. Billy, you got some.
Yeah, before we step aside and we get to You Choose the News, I know that I can be a pain in the neck, but I'll talk to you about pain that I have every single day and a team that I'm working with that I know can help you. Balance Well Space. I have found this amazing team of professionals that's making a huge difference in my life. My back sucks. It has hurt for 20 years since surgery. I've got a broken right shoulder, a broken bone in the humerus that's unlike anything most people have. So the damage that I have done is severe. They are working with me to change everything. It's a one-stop shop for what hurts you. Now, what makes them unique is you get a team of professionals. You come in, you do an evaluation, and then you have an entire team that works together, all sorts of different modalities. We're talking about chiropractic, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, and they have some cutting edge therapy as well. They've got this thing where they stick these suction cups on my back and it gives me like an electronic massage. What it has done for my back is unreal. My back feels better than it has in a decade. I'm not having the pain. I'm not getting up and not sore. It is unreal. I want you to talk to Balance Well Space, balancewellspace.com. Everything you need, one appointment, one day, one stop. No more driving around town and taking care of this on Tuesday, this on Thursday, and something else maybe on a Saturday if you get lucky. You've got a team that also regularly reevaluates your progress. When's the last time your doctors got together and talked about you? Yeah. Exactly. I know the same feeling. Talk to the team that I trust, Balance Well Space. Brand new offices right in Lowry, directly across the road from Hangar 2, and plenty of parking. If you're ready to experience the transformative power of integrative medicine, the same way that I am doing on a daily basis, I'm going to see them right after the show today. BalanceWellSpace.com. That's balancewellspace.com.
And when we come back, your favorite and mine as well. You choose the news.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Always great to have Charlie follow in the Jeff and Bill show. We're sandwiched right between Hugh Hewitt and Charlie. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
All right, let's do You Choose the News, Billy.
Yes, it is time of that morning where we play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You Choose the News. We've scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find really, really dumb stories about us humans, giving them more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? Nobody in charge has any idea that we're doing it. And so, shh, it's a secret. Do not tell them. But what you can do is tell your friends to call Roll 'em Out Shelves, rollemoutshelves.com. They will do a free in-home estimate. It is a wonderful mother-son team that is going to solve the clutter problems in your home. But what they can't solve is the clutter inside my brain. All righty, gentlemen, here we go. Jeff Hunt, Blake Olson from the newsroom. Here are our headlines this morning. Headline number 1, hire an expert. Headline number 2, return sinks mom and pop business. Headline number 3, let's pretend. Headline number 4, leisure life defined by 3 ingredients. All righty, Mr. Hunt, your choice, sir.
Leisure life.
Yes, leisure life defined by 3 amazing ingredients. Here we're traveling to Irvine, California, and talking about a run for the border. No, not the illegal immigrants, the Taco Bell. Taco Bell is introducing a groundbreaking experience designed to, quote, redefine leisure lifestyle. The Cantinas. It is an early retirement community that promises a weekend getaway like no other. Yes, Taco Bell is leaning into their new Cantina chicken menu by doing a special vacation of the Cantinas. It basically pretend that you are that retiree. You get to lounge around regardless of age. Doors open August 17th and it runs all the way through the 18th. They invite you to indulge in Taco Bell fueled sun-soaked experiences with senior-inspired recreation and cross-generational activities. Morning time activities like tea times. You can do afternoon aerobics, even in the water. Pickleball. Attendees will feel rejuvenated. Yes, you can go to tacobell.com and get a reservation if you want.
It lasts a day from the 17th to the 18th?
Yeah. But it's, it's a marketing thing. They're trying to do a pop-up thing. So we'll see. I mean, if it wasn't in California, maybe. All right. Blake Olson from the newsroom. Hire an expert, return sinks mom and pop biz, or let's pretend.
Let's go with the expert.
Yeah, hire an expert. That's what you got to do. And that's what, luckily, fraud investigators found in New York City. The Department of Homeland Services realized that they have hired an expert because their very own fraud investigator was taking the identities of homeless people and then applying for services under their names and not giving them the money. So, yes, again, the New York City Department of Homeland Services had a fraud investigator that was committing fraud on the homeless people to steal their money.
Only in New York.
Yes, that's why. And he's an expert, so he had to keep the job. All right, final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt. Return sinks mom and pop biz, or let's pretend.
Return sinks mom and pop.
Yeah, this is a business story that is making the rounds online thanks to Amazon. A mom and pop business, Paul and Rochelle Barron, owner of Bow and Bell Littles, told Bloomberg recently that Amazon helped tank their mom and pop biz by not inspecting any returned items before reselling them. What did Amazon do? They resold a feces-encrusted swim diaper supposedly provided by Bow and Bell Littles. That led to a 1-star review online. It has gone viral. Other people have liked it, saying it helped me with my reviews. And they said that their nearly $3 million business now can't even make $600,000 in the past year because of this review. Yes. And they said we weren't responsible for it. We didn't touch it. Yeah. But they said we didn't touch this. I don't know. But the issue is they had a swim diaper. It's a little kid's swim diaper. Evidently was partially used and someone had returned it and sent it back to Amazon. Amazon didn't expect the package and just resold it and sent it back out. And the family never touched it, but it's their business that went down. Thank you, Bezos. That's it.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Could you imagine getting that in the mail?
Exactly. All right.
Remember when they used to put bags of that on doorsteps?
What do you mean remember? I was there. I was holding the lighter, my friend.
All right, Randy Corporon coming up at the 7 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get that cup of coffee brewing, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. No other station is going to bring you more news from the RNC than 710 KNUS will this morning. Coming up here in just a second, Randy Corporon, Colorado National Republican Committeeman, will join us, give us insight on what happened yesterday, what he thought about all the speeches and the activities happening. And then we're going to get into White House news correspondent from Salem, Greg Cluckston, is going to be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour, along with Greg Lopez, congressman from Congressional District 4, and then Tom Tradup, vice president of news and talk programming for Salem, also at the RNC convention. You just heard from Chris Murray as well from the RNC convention, giving us an analysis on the case being dismissed by Judge Eileen Cannon, Trump's classified documents case. So lots of news to cover. Just saw this coming through here, Billy, that Jack Black canceling the rest of his tour. Tenacious D. This is what he said. I was blindsided by what was said at the show on Sunday. His bandmate, Kyle Gass, saying, next time, don't miss Trump.
Oh, geez, that's not good.
Yeah, Jack Black saying, I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it is appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. I am grateful to the fans for their support and understanding.
That's
just
good.
Coming through.
Now, I appreciate that because inside of the statement, Jack doesn't take a position like his bandmate. And this is important. I understand why artists do feel the need at time to speak out, but we've talked about it before. People that are Tenacious D fans will vote for both Biden and Trump. Do not try and offend them unless that is your shtick. That's your thing. Don't get into it. I know everybody's all, Taylor Swifty. Taylor, what you gonna do? Her politics are fairly well known, but she also does not go out there and make everything into a political rally. And she doesn't make statements like this, regardless of the fact that her politics are well known based on other things that she's done. Same thing here with Tenacious D. Why he would say that on stage is abhorrent. That is just ridiculous. The only time I would give anybody grace for that would be if they were a stand-up comedian and it was part of a bit and they went somewhere. If it was just a flat statement, I got an issue with you. But if it's part of something you're saying, hey, and here's my commentary, because sometimes they're supposed to be difficult, but no, not in this way, not during a concert, not in this way. It's uncalled for.
I appreciate that, Bill, because we talked about this on Saturday with Peter Boyles. We did 2.5 hours uninterrupted, no commercial break analysis, when another news station well known here in Colorado was doing a post-game Rockies wrap-up.
Yeah, that would be KOA. I'm just going to say it. That's KOA. They were too interested in the baseball. Yeah.
And so we did 2.5 hours unscripted, and my first reaction when Pete asked me about hearing about the assassination attempt against Donald Trump was, I don't want to live in this America.
Yeah.
And so it was a gut punch. And to the credit, I've seen a few folks really step up and go when the Democrat side has gotten a little carried away and made statements like that. Next time, don't miss Trump, stuff like that. Democrat leaders, to their credit, have come out and said, we don't want to live in this type of America either. Stop this type of rhetoric.
Yeah. The weird part is, and again, this is hasn't been brought into the conversation. But God, is the lieutenant governor that's running for governor? Is it Michigan? No, I don't think it's Michigan. I have to go and look him up.
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yeah, recently said that some people need some killing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a little different too, and that's really, really targeted as far as him stating. And he did that, I believe, when he was speaking in a church. That's something next level. I haven't heard a lot of people coming out saying that was wrong either. But again, that's the level of the rhetoric, and that's what we're experiencing in this country. And I don't want to live in this America either, but that's the ticket we bought. So we'll see where the ride goes.
We'll continue a lot of conversation. I want to get into JD Vance because I'm very interested in hearing, particularly from callers, what your thoughts are on this guy. Are you excited? The conversation in our house yesterday, Billy, was kind of like, is going to the vice presidential level kind of an end to your career? Now, there's been a handful of folks that have gone to the next level, right? George H.W. Bush became president of the United States. Joe Biden became president of the United States. But I just want to take a little journey before I get to Blake Olson on where they are now.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start with Dan Quayle, retired down in Arizona. But
he now runs a spelling bee. I'm sorry. I'm teasing.
Potato.
Yes.
Dan Quayle, Al Gore. Remember Joseph Lieberman was the presidential nominee there.
Yeah,
Sarah Palin, vice presidential nominee. Sarah Palin, and then you had Paul Ryan.
Yeah,
and then after 2012, let's see, 2016, Mike Pence.
Yep.
And then after 16 and 20, you had again Mike Pence up there. So is it all that good to be the Republican vice presidential nominee, or is this going to kind of limit Vance? And Vance, 39 years old, he's got a 93% conservative rating from the Heritage Foundation. That's pretty good. I have some concerns about kind of some weakening. I've heard him talk about the abortion pill, kind of taking some step back from his pro-life commitments by saying he'd be fine with mifepristone being out there on the market. That's the abortion pill. So I have some concerns. I'm going to have to warm up to him. I haven't read Hillbilly Elegy yet, and I've got to get into that. But there's a lot of people excited about him. Don Jr., Tucker Carlson were some of the big names. Eric Trump as well. Big names pushing JD Vance. But I don't fully see it. I don't get it. I don't understand the strategy here as much as I did with Mike Pence. I wasn't that excited about Mike Pence either because he was a little weak on some of the religious freedom stuff that happened in his state when he was the governor. So I would love to hear, especially from Trump supporters, and if you're a Biden supporter, what do you think of JD Vance? Are you concerned about Kamala Harris and JD Vance on the vice presidential stage? I want to get into all this as well in the next hour, but let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Oh man, there are so many things you guys said there that I want to talk about. I will tell you.
Are you excited?
I saw the Jack Black video, and he was caught off guard, by the way. I think that's number one. Yeah, I'm excited about JD Vance because he's smart as anything, man. I think he's just a great communicator. He's almost as smart as Billy, honestly.
Do you think Yale's going to get behind their graduate here and be super excited about him?
I doubt that, but I was shocked. See, my guy is Donalds. I think Byron Donalds is an up and coming star. That's just me. I think he's great.
Well, and Blake, to that point, this is really important for people to understand about the RNC convention. We are in audition time right now for the next 4 years. That's why it's important to watch all these speeches, get a sense of where people are and how well they do. And I think he spoke yesterday, didn't he? Didn't Byron Donalds?
Yeah, he did.
Yesterday?
He did. I mean, I watched probably 20 people go up there, and you're right. It's audition time, and it's amazing how you can see in 5 minutes or however long they have. Watch out for this guy. Oh, watch out for this guy. I think Billy was alluding to Robinson, right? Mark Robinson.
Yep,
Lieutenant Governor.
He did fine yesterday.
Yeah. No, he was great again. But yeah, I hadn't heard that one in church that Billy's talking about. I gotta find it because I can hear him saying something like that. But Blake. He's what we call country.
He's running for governor of North Carolina.
Yeah, he's awesome, man.
I gotta be honest though. The Kristi Noem.
Oh man,
I watched her speech last night. I can't believe they keep putting her out there.
I can't watch her anymore.
I can't either.
I can't. I mean, she looked beautiful and everything, but I can't listen to her.
It was so dry, so monotone.
Yes.
And I mean, hey, hold on. I got to play this here. I got to play this.
Okay.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, he's loosening up a little bit too. He's doing a good job.
Tim Scott was that.
doubt.
Yep.
See, I'm not a big Tim Scott fan.
Oh,
Everything.
no.
I know. I think he's great. I just think when he communicates, it's so canned, which is very difficult. Yeah, but Donald's, on the other hand, to me, he's more natural. But however, I watched Scott now, and he's loosening up the shoulders, getting a little looser. So I like that. So anyway, all right. Great job, Jeff. 65 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 80s. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, former Broncos Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis says he's humiliated, embarrassed, and angry after he was handcuffed and removed from a United Airlines flight. He was flying from Denver to California with his wife and kids. Davis says he tapped on a flight attendant's arm and asked for a cup of ice before the attendant allegedly shouted, "Don't touch me!" Officers escorted the Hall of Famer off the plane after it landed, but later determined he did nothing wrong. And of the 1,000 or so NFL players that I've covered over the years, he's probably the last I would think that would do anything wrong. So I would be shocked if anything was inappropriate there. But so TD was angry getting off the plane.
You think it's kind of like what happened with the golf player where the police were just kind of overreacting?
Yeah, it sounds like
in this case, the flight attendant.
Yeah, it sounds like she was having a bad day or something. I don't know. Yeah, I think
that's a job for Saints, man. I don't know how they deal with all the people on airlines.
No doubt. No, I agree. Although I've had a few that I'm like, really? Really, did I look at you wrong? Or, but that's a tough job, man. There's no question about that. So I think he caught her on a bad day, but I get it, man. TD was embarrassed, and we'll see. I have his old number here. I tried to text him, nothing came back. So it's been about 6 or 7 years. So, but I would be shocked. All right, Governor Polis has ordered all flags at half-staff today in honor of firefighter Corey Comprator, who was shot and killed during the assassination attempt at the Trump rally. Loved his family, his community, his job, and the country, and flags will fly at half-staff today. Democratic Colorado Representative Steve Woodrow, Jeff's friend, has apologized for a social media post he made following Saturday's attempted assassination. After it happened, Woodrow posted, "The last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil, but here we are." He later backpedaled, saying he condemns the attempt on Trump's life in the most forceful terms.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
And with a bandage over his right ear, former President Trump made his way into the RNC. Trump selects Ohio Senator JD Vance as his running mate. Became famous after writing the book Hillbillyology and a Marine, Ivy League, grew up poor, and the Marines made him the man he is today.
He just said, look, I think we're going to go save this country. I think you're the guy who can help me in the best way. You can help me govern. You can help me win. You can help me in some of these Midwestern states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and so forth. And he said rightfully that we have been very, very close for a long time, but especially since I endorsed you in 2022. And I would not have won that race without Donald Trump's endorsement. And the president's trust then and his partnership since then has been something I value a great deal.
The theme in Milwaukee today will be Make America Safe Again, with speakers on deck to talk about supporting law enforcement and securing the southern border. President Biden being pressed to explain how he can turn down the heat in political discourse. In an interview with NBC News, Lester Holt asked Biden several times how he could contribute to toning down the rhetoric. Biden said he doesn't engage in that kind of language, while listening and listing a number of times he thinks that Trump did. He needs to watch the news or listen to it, I guess.
I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
If reelected, he will be a dictator on day one.
MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans quote a clear and present danger to our democracy.
And a day before, he told donors time to put a bullseye on Trump. The FBI says their search of the home of Thomas Crooks is complete. The Bureau finished their search on Monday afternoon after combing through the residence where the 20-year-old who shot former President Trump and 3 others lived. The biggest issue now is how he got on the roof, and the Secret Service couldn't prevent it. Colorado's Lauren Boebert says it was intentional or the Secret Service was grossly incompetent, and she has introduced a bill to hold them accountable. The great Chris Murray from First and 14th Law on with the fellas this morning to discuss the Trump immunity case being dismissed.
Huge win for him. And it really, it really means that the legal jeopardy of former President Trump there's no case really remaining that could prevent him from campaigning for president, and that would kind of sit over his head before the election.
All right, it's 61 in Lone Tree, 63 in North Glen, 65 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Tuesday morning. I think Randy's coming up. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, coming up in just a little bit, we're going to talk with Randy Corporon, Colorado National Republican Committeeman, on his experience at the Republican National Convention taking place all this week in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Let's go to the phone lines. Joe in Arvada, you're on the Jeff and Bill show. What do you think of JD Vance? You excited?
JD Vance is the perfect choice. I did predict it. Thank you.
Why do you think he's so good?
There's so many reasons why. Think about it. This is a Marine, a fighter. This is a person called out of poverty to lead the wise. I tell you this, there was not one person a better choice. This person is a MAGA from the ground up.
You think so? Originally, he wasn't a supporter of Trump.
See, that is another reason why Trump chose him. You see, he was, of course, swayed by the fools in the media when Donald Trump was elected the first time. And then he saw what he did. And he said, this is the way. This is the right way. And he changed his mind. And it shows a leader of character who can see that the wise are leading us out of trouble. And that is a man that you want, because he has the ability to see what is right, and on the opposite hand, what is Biden.
Joe, preview the upcoming debate between him and Kamala Harris. How do you think that's going to turn out?
Well, what do they say that she often has a word salad? After it's all over, she'll be tossed salad because it's going to be what are they? I'd say it's going to be men against boys, but that would be the wrong analogy. But it's not going to be pretty. Let's just put it that way. It isn't going to be pretty.
Why do you come to that conclusion?
He's going to have to be delicate. And I would recommend that he read Proverbs 15. The first line is so important. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up strife. We have to read that proverb, everyone. Read Proverbs 15. It's a description of this entire election between good and evil.
Now, why do you think that she's going to do so that Kamala Harris would do badly against JD Vance? What do you come to that conclusion on that one?
Well, here's the thing. The whole Biden administration reminds me of Nabal. Look it up. Nabal.
Yeah, but no, that doesn't answer. I understand that, Joe, but doesn't necessarily answer my question. I'm just curious about why you think.
Fools.
Yeah,
a ship of fools.
But I understand the idea. But if we're talking about her getting on the debate stage, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of her, but she was elected DEA of San Francisco twice. She was elected AG of California twice, and was elected senator, and served longer than Vance. The idea that she's not good on her feet and is not a good debater, what we haven't seen is JD Vance be a good debater. She has hours and hours in court. I know, I understand this. All I'm saying, Joe, is I want to caution you and anybody else saying he's going to wipe the floor with her simply because I think she's a clown based on what she's done in the administration. Be careful with that, only because you're going to set the bar so low. She has the ability to surprise. And she can. If you sit there and say that she's absolutely going to get washed over by him, and she comes out there and holds her own, you're going to give her credit. That's all I'm saying, my friend. Be careful. Don't give her that much credit.
I don't think that we should underestimate the enemy, but let's call it like it is. She didn't reach her positions just because she was good on her feet.
Well, no, I understand that, but we have that one instance, and guess what? None of those, that person involved in that didn't get to vote for her, didn't vote and to change the election for her to win district attorney. Same thing with AG, same thing with Senate. Again, we can use that one aspersion on her, but the rest of her resume doesn't hold up that way. And so, and that's what I'm saying. Be careful, because with that comment, you're putting it really low.
How did foolish people gain the seat of authority? It was our fault. We put them there. I will take responsibility for it. We didn't fight hard enough to get rid of idiots like Kamala Harris. And let me just say this. She cannot hold her own. I said this before about Joe Biden would get torn apart by Donald Trump, and you guys laughed. Well, it happened. Joe Biden will never get in the ring again against Donald Trump.
I doubt that.
Everyone knows.
Joe, do you think Joe Biden's going to be the nominee? You think they're going to carry him through all the way to November?
You know, this actually does. I know you don't like these answers, but it does remind me of Nabal. It's a story in the Bible, and I won't tell the whole story. But what happened is that King David, ignored Nabal, even though he wanted to kill him. He ignored him. And 10 days later, the Lord smote Nabal. And I'll just tell you this. His days are numbered, whether or not Donald Trump does anything to him or not. Joe Biden is done.
Joe from Arvada, appreciate the call. I've got one final word on all of this, Billy.
Yeah?
What can be unburdened by what has been?
Good. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is Kamala Harris's catchphrase.
Yep.
And the RNC put out about 4 minutes of her talking about what can be unburdened by what has been. we'll get to this, and we're going to cover, Joe, I appreciate the call. We're going to get to Randy Corporon here as well. He's going to be doing a live call-in from the Colorado National Republican Convention, or from the he's the Colorado National Republican Committeeman calling us from the Republican National Convention in Wisconsin. He'll be joining us in just a second. I want to talk to you about roll them out shelves, Billy.
Okay.
We had them installed. I was showing them off to my mom over the weekend. She loves them. Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you can easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating all the chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. We've had them installed. They're fantastic. Joyce and Brent Tolliver are the mom and son dynamic duo, leaving satisfied customers wherever they go, and they have all 5-star reviews confirming this. Listen to one of these, life-changing. So much wasted space in our kitchen cabinets. My space has literally tripled. I'm so happy. This is a top-notch company with excellent products, excellent service and installation. We had shelves installed in our laundry room and kitchen. Makes a world of difference in accessing items. I highly recommend them. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Be sure to tell them Jeff sent you. rollemoutshelves.com. We'll continue next with Randy Corporon. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, coming to us live from the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is Republican National Committeeman from the state of Colorado, Randy Corporon. Randy, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. I don't know about live, late nights, early morning, so just sort of crawling along. But a lot of excitement out here, I'll tell you.
Yeah, give us some insight for folks who've never been to a convention. Why do they do it? What is it like? What's going on? Give us a little insight.
Well, sure. You know, the primary purpose of a major political party is to elect their candidate, and in this case, nominate a president. So with all of the ancillary things that the RNC does, this is really the focal point. And so far, based on day one, it's been pretty extraordinary. This is my third convention, Jeff, and the first time I went in 2016, Cleveland, as a Ted Cruz delegate. I was never Trump, but I was certainly barely Trump. Then in 2020, it was COVID, so there were only about 150 of us actually in the building with the president, and not a whole lot of energy there. But this is history in the making. This is something that's going to go down in the history books, especially in light of Saturday's attempted assassination.
Yeah, we saw the video yesterday of President Trump walking into the auditorium there, the song God Bless America being played. Very powerful moment. Give us a sense of what went through your mind, your heart, when you saw Donald Trump 48 hours from an attempted assassination, walking in with a bandaged ear from the wound he received. What went through your mind?
Well, it was pretty exciting, obviously, but I wonder if you noticed, I don't know how the TV cameras caught it, but he came out right in front of the Colorado delegation.
Really?
So our positioning couldn't have been any better. And I was sometimes down with the delegation, sometimes up in the softer seats, just up off the floor. And so I was just a few seats down from where Donald Trump and the family and the others were sitting in those white VIP seats. And it was really quite interesting because all of a sudden there were TV cameras and people were blocking off aisles. And my timing was such that I had just been trying to cross back over to where the Colorado delegation was, and I got stuck there. And Laura Trump came up, and she waved and she did a few things. And I talked to a woman who was in charge who said, nobody else is coming. I'm like, why are you guys keeping this thing blocked up? Nobody else is coming. So I went back to my seat off of the floor, and sure enough, within about a half an hour, you could see what was about to happen. And when you saw Donald Trump's face, he looked weary. He looked resolute. The size of that bandage on his ear, tells me this wasn't just a little nick. But he crawled up those steps and turned to the adoring throngs of people, and the people that were sitting around me, and the beautiful lady that I'm here with literally started to cry. I mean, it was that emotional of a moment.
I mean, that's something that we've never experienced, definitely in my lifetime. 48 hours from an attempted assassination, and then walking out. But he seemed heartfelt in his appreciation from the standing ovation he received in that room. Was that your sense as well?
Yeah, they did some great camera work within the convention there, where you just zoom in on his face and looked to me as he was walking down the hallway, and Lee Greenwood was singing the theme song, that there was some moisture welling up in the president's eyes. And then when he came out, and it's like an Avalanche Stanley Cup playoff game. You could just feel the swell as soon as people saw him and realized that it was him coming. And that kind of energy, this is the Milwaukee Bucks stadium. So it's designed to, magnify those swells. You could just feel it in your bones. It was an extraordinary piece of history, and I will treasure being here for the rest of my life.
Talking with Randy Corporon, he's the Colorado National Republican Committeeman, live from the Republican National Convention in Colorado. Randy, there's been a lot made of the quote-unquote civil war happening within the Republican Party here in Colorado. Dave Williams was there yesterday making the declaration that Donald Trump is the nominee from the state of Colorado, that the delegates are in support of Donald Trump. Can you give us insight into how the Colorado delegation is doing? Are people joining together, or is the civil war still brewing?
Well, it's funny. I disputed for a long time that there was a civil war in the Republican Party because I thought what we were witnessing was a change of direction and a change of leadership that the Tea Party, the grassroots folks who've been sort of, told to go out and make calls and make your donations and then go sit in the corner and vote for whoever we pick for you. I thought that transition would be difficult, but I didn't think it would be so destructive. The effort to take out the current leadership team on the state party level has been pretty phenomenal, unsuccessful to date, probably will continue to be so. But this delegation, just like the national party, now that we are at convention, now that we have nominated a president and a vice president, I've never felt more unity, especially on the national level, which is where I spend most of my time in my political activity now. I've just never felt it so tight and close. Everybody is excited. Many of us believe, that there was some divine providence to have all these things lay out the way that they have. And it's a remarkable feeling. You can feel it on the grounds within the complex, and you can certainly feel it when you're sitting and talking with your colleagues.
Randy Corporon, there was a poll out recently that possibly, maybe Colorado's in the swing state category. Do you believe it? Do you think there's a chance that Donald Trump could win the state of Colorado?
Well, I'll tell you, I think anything is in play right now. I was on a plane on Sunday and had slow internet. So instead of trying to work, I just futzed around and watched social media. And I could not believe the number of people who, prominent people, hundreds of thousands of followers or more, who are posting up things like, I've been never Trump. I've been resistant to Trump. I don't like Donald Trump. But that man is a beast. That man is a hero. What happened last night at the convention with that union boss coming in and giving the longest speech of the night, the efforts to reach out to people who in the past have never considered being Republican is extraordinary. And can it happen? Yeah. I mean, could Donald Trump survive a bullet, that goes through his ear? Could these court cases, and thank God Judge Cannon did the right thing with the classified docs case. That's gonna probably screw up Jack Smith's so-called election interference case as well. But all of these things falling together, I just think anything's possible. Plus, everybody now sees the scam that the Democrats have perpetrated by bringing up, basement Biden and pretending that he's actually in charge of the country for the last few years. So who knows?
Randy, I want to talk to you a little bit about the platform. I signed a letter along with a number of other pro-life leaders, including Jeannie Mancini, president of the March for Life Action, Albert Mohler, president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, Robert George, Ryan Anderson, Lila Rose, president of Live Action, a lot of great pro-life leaders. They're concerned about the idea that the Republican Party may be taking a step back from its commitment to the sanctity of life. What do you say to pro-life voters out there, someone that was part of the platform committee?
Yeah, I was certainly contacted a lot by, people from Tony Perkins' organization and others. I was less than thrilled about the mechanism by which this platform was passed. My decision, and I voted for it with full support and wholeheartedly, was simply that if any single figure, any single political figure had ever deserved, our deference to how he thought he needed a campaign and a platform to look in order to maximize his election chances, the guy who's put his life, his freedom, sitting on his fortune. And, I used to say his life, meaning he's not sitting on a retired island. Now we know his actual life has been on the line. He deserved our deference. This is still an extraordinarily pro-life party. There are differences within the party as to, what that means. I am someone who believes that, life begins at conception, and except for the life of the mother, you don't kill a baby because of a perpetration of a crime, a rape, or whatever. But that's not where America is. And I think the goal here was to, rather than have a 70-page philosophical treatise on where, conservative Republicans stand on social issues, Donald Trump made it quite clear he wanted an action platform that says, this is what the country needs. This is what we're going to do. I'm the guy who made it possible to overturn Roe v. Wade. And so now each individual state and the voters in those states get to decide, where they draw those limits. And we as Republicans, we as Christians should continue to work on, how people view life in the womb and unborn, protecting the unborn, and continue to make our cases. But that's not where the country is right now. And this Republican Party wants to grab this country where it is and take it to higher and better places.
Randy Corporon, National Committeeman from Colorado, joining Jeff and Bill live from Milwaukee. He's at the RNC. On that platform, the question I've got about it is, what happened to the Second Amendment stuff? There isn't anything in the platform that really, outside of one statement, that talks about or reaffirms in any real strong way Second Amendment rights. Why was that left out of the platform, in your opinion?
Well, nobody consulted me about the decisions that were made there. I think, number one, if you're going to limit yourself to a 15 or 16 page platform, you want to address the things that are most prevalent in voters' minds, in their pocketbooks, in the conversations that are going around the dinner table. The Second Amendment is strong. The Second Amendment is there. The people who will continue to fight for Second Amendment freedoms are not going anywhere. And I think it was just really as much a political choice as anything. I can tell you that there is, this is the most conservative and grassroots RNC that I've seen in the 8 years that I've been involved now. I'll be starting my second term on Friday. And so it'll be 12 years that I've been involved, at least at the national level, not as committeeman, but in national politics at conventions, and then now starting my second term as committeeman. But the shift on the voting majority on that committee is palpable. And so I think from Donald Trump's perspective, most pro-life president we've ever had. He shows up at the marches. He did appoint judges that got rid of Roe v. Wade, who even Ruth Bader Ginsburg admitted was horrific constitutional law. I don't think any of those principles are going anywhere. In fact, I think the base of the party is more in control of the party than it ever was, and will continue to fight for our constitutional protections.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I appreciate your insight on that, Randy. And the only minefield that I see is the same problem the Democrats are having with the very liberal pro-Hamas wing of their party. The very hardcore Muslim supporters that are saying they won't vote for Biden in the next election, even if that means electing Trump. And I'm worried. Again, I haven't seen anything to prove this out, but what I'm worried about is that this platform, when it basically ignores Second Amendment and how it's going with the pro-life cause, that it may, again, haven't seen anything to back this up, but it may prompt some very conservative voters to just stay on the couch. And I forgot who the commentator I was in the last 24 hours that I heard it. They said, you got to realize that this is an election between Trump, Biden, and the couch. And the couch is an amazing candidate because Couch never runs any advertisements, doesn't have a single platform, but seems to win a lot because a lot of us don't show up. And that's the only thing I'm worried about, is that it's more of an incentive to not show up than to support the party.
And Billy, to your point, we had Paul Teller on yesterday, who oversees Mike Pence's think tank, and then helped draft this letter that was gathering pro-life leaders. And his comment was, well, the energy may not be there. They might buy the ticket, but they're not necessarily going to show up to watch the game as big fans. So, Randy, do you think that those that are social conservatives like myself will have the energy, be out there doing the work, the grassroots work to support Donald Trump if the platform isn't quite where they want it to be?
Well, you won't find anybody much more social or fiscally or constitutionally conservative than I am on this committee. And so, I've gotten to know so many of the like-minded folks, and I talk to them about their states and what's going on there. Setting aside for a minute the intensity of commitment to Donald Trump that is coming out of and will continue to build coming out of Saturday's assassination attempt, you still come down to that binary choice. And we saw how Donald Trump performed during 4 years, what he did for life, how he stood for the Second Amendment, some decisions he made that I didn't agree with at all, but they were pretty popular across the broad base of the country, bump stocks and other dumb things. But I just don't see how certainly my intensity has not dropped. And as some of the most pro-life advocate folks that I know on the committee are understanding why this platform was done the way it was, and still remember that it's Donald Trump who brought us to this point where the individual states can make those decisions. Showed up at the Right to Life marches, first president ever to do that. We're not going to forget those things just because the Republican Party decided to do a more politically favorable platform. I don't think enthusiasm is going to drop at all. And then we've got 4 years of living under this Biden mess and watching the cover up of this vegetable. I read Elon Musk is pledging $45 million a month to a Trump super PAC. I mean, people are coming out of the woodwork for this guy. I think enthusiasm is going to be off the charts. And one last thing, I don't know what our time is, but let's just remember that even if you believe the vote count from 2020 and set aside the Zuckerbucks and the mail-in ballots and the ballots coming in after Election Day and all of those kinds of things, Donald Trump lost that election, if you believe that count, by about 44,000 votes in just the right places on the battleground states. So it's not like it was some kind of a swamp in 2020. And I think the tables are strongly going to turn in 2024, and especially in light of last Saturday.
Randy Corporon, Colorado National Republican Committeeman, giving us a bit of his time live from the RNC convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Randy, so grateful for your leadership. Thank you for taking time to join us.
Yeah, thanks for the time.
God bless you both. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, we'll continue. We're going to hear from Greg Cluckston, White House news correspondent with Salem, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, as well as Greg Lopez. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, Tom Tradup, Vice President of News and Talk Programming from Salem as well. All live, coming from the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You got no better coverage than right here on 710 KNUS. Be sure to stick with us. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Great conversation with Randy Corporon coming at us from the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen tonight. We're going to talk with Greg Cluckston. He's the White House news correspondent for Salem in the next hour, as well as Greg Lopez. So who's up tonight? What are they going to cover? As I mentioned before, this is where the great auditions happen for the future of the Republican Party. So you want to see where it's going to be in the next 4-8 years. In addition to seeing Donald Trump on the stage and JD Vance, all that, it happens at the RNC convention. Because if you remember, I think it was the 2004 convention, there was a young senator named Barack Obama that took the stage. And then by 2008, he was the Republican nominee.
Yeah.
Or Democrat nominee.
Yeah,
sorry.
he was. He was. And hurt Hillary a lot because of that speech.
Yep. So be paying attention. By the way, my Amber Rose video has got well over 100,000 views on Twitter.
Wow, nice job.
So we'll talk about her and a lot more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and right from the heart of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Republican National Convention. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get that cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, Greg Cluckston, White House news correspondent from Salem. He's live from the Republican National Convention, going to give us a little insight to what happened yesterday, what to expect today as well. This thing's going to continue all week, and we'll give you the best news we can coming right from the heart of the RNC convention. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 70 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the upper 80s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: Republicans loving the band Six Wire last night at the RNC, and it got better when former President Trump was announced and made his way in with a bandage on his right ear. Tucker Carlson, Byron Donalds, and his new running mate, JD Vance, joined him. Vance is from Ohio, and a huge day for him.
When the president called me today to actually formally offer me to become, the vice presidential nominee, which just sounds crazy. My son, my 7-year-old son, was sort of making noise in the background. I'm getting so embarrassed. But then he actually has me put my 7-year-old son on the phone. You think about this, everything that's happened. The guy just got shot at a couple of days ago, and he takes the time to talk to my 7-year-old. It's a moment I'll never forget.
That's a cool story. RNC committee man Randy Corporon is there, and he was on with Jeff and Bill last hour and talked about Trump's entrance.
He looked weary. He looked resolute. The size of that bandage on his ear, tells me this wasn't just a little nick. But he crawled up those steps and turned to the adoring throngs of people, and the people that were sitting around me, and the beautiful lady that I'm here with literally started to cry. I mean, it was that emotional of a moment.
The theme in Milwaukee today will be Make America Safe Again, with speakers on deck to talk about supporting law enforcement and securing the southern border. The FBI's search of the home of Thomas Crooks is complete. They combed through the residence where the 20-year-old who shot the former president and 3 others lived. The biggest issue now is how he got on the roof. And how did he have so much time to get positioned on the roof and fire the shots? Hundreds of people saw him, and the Secret Service couldn't prevent it. Colorado's Lauren Boebert says it was intentional, or the Secret Service was grossly incompetent, and she has introduced a bill to hold them accountable. Trump's immunity case dismissed on Monday, and Trump's attorney Todd Blanche on with Hugh Hewitt this morning. How about the Mersham trial in New York? They want that one thrown out.
Saturday was just a very sad day for this country, and it's in part a reflection of the lawfare, in my view, that's been happening against President Trump, including the DA in the Manhattan case. And I hope that Judge Mersham does it. I really do. It would go a long way, in my view, to healing some of the wounds that we have. And look, I've spent the past year being disappointed, so I don't want to get too excited, but I really hope Judge Mersham agrees with our motion and throws this case out.
Governor Polis has ordered all flags at half-staff today in honor of firefighter Corey Comprator, who was shot and killed during the assassination attempt at the Trump rally. He loved his family, community, God, his job, and the country. Great move, Governor. Democratic Colorado Representative Steve Woodrow has apologized for a social media post he made following Saturday's assassination attempt. After it happened, Woodrow posted, "The last thing America needed was sympathy for the devil. But here we are. He backpedaled, saying he condemns the attempt on Trump's life in the most forceful of terms. 67 in Parker, 68 in Arvada, 70 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. It's Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. This is textbook mid-July weather for Denver. It's going to be warm, but not as hot as it's been, and afternoon and evening thunderstorms will be a common occurrence. Upper 80s today, low to mid-80s Wednesday, 80s and lower 90s Thursday and Friday, with a daily chance of afternoon and evening scattered thunderstorms, nights 50s and low 60s. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, covering all things Republican National Convention this week. Greg Cluckston, White House news correspondent for Salem, joins us. Greg, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you guys. It's a pleasure and great to talk with you.
So give us a sense of what happened yesterday and what to expect today at the Republican National Convention.
Well, I just heard your news headlines there, and obviously the two big storylines were the vice presidential pick and announcement and nomination yesterday for Senator from Ohio, JD Vance. And then, of course, the rousing appearance by Donald J. Trump inside the convention hall just 48 hours after he survived an assassination attempt. You know, Trump last night did not speak to the audience, but his presence there spoke volumes as he came in to thunderous applause, a standing ovation. It was very emotional for all of the convention goers, and it sent a real strong, resolute message as he took his seat, standing next to his new running mate, which was announced just a few hours earlier. So there was a lot of excitement there, along with that theme of making America wealthy again. There was a lot of talk about Biden policies and inflation and how the current administration has made things more difficult economically for this country. That was the argument from the GOP last night, and that was the big part of the opening day one.
Yeah, if you didn't watch it on television, they've got this big stage with lots of different screens, and it's almost a little overwhelming when you watch it on, even for a millennial like me. I'm like, that's a lot going on the stage right there. But they had the dollar bill sign. That was a big part of the whole design of the stage, and it seemed like the real message they were trying to drive home was an economic message, likely because it's affected everybody. Rising inflation, cost of interest rates with your home, all that stuff. Really confusing, very hard time. A lot of the people in my personal life working two jobs just to make ends meet. That seemed to be one of the core messages. Glenn Youngkin as well, taking the stage yesterday, made that a big part of his speech, going back to the idea that, under his leadership at Virginia, things are doing well. They're the number one state for business, he said. That seemed to be a message, Greg, that seemed to move through all aspects of the speeches yesterday?
Sure, and this is by design, and both political parties do this at conventions. They basically have a thematic approach to each day of their convention, and so we're going to see that this week. We're already seeing that with the RNC. And so obviously we heard other topics that came up last night, but most of the speakers that were on the speaking schedule last night spoke to the theme of the day of make America wealthy again, is how the RNC put it out. And obviously that's dealing with the economy, it's dealing with mortgage rates, it's dealing with inflation, all of the things that you just mentioned. And so in fact, when you mentioned Governor Youngkin, he was drawing comparisons to himself with Donald Trump, saying that in 2016, we had in America a businessman who became president in Donald Trump. And that's what happened with Youngkin, a former businessman who became governor of his state of Virginia. And so he was drawing those parallels and hammering home that economic message. And so today, as we shift to the idea of security and the border and immigration and crime and law enforcement. Likewise, tonight, we will see a lot of these speeches infused with that as the main thrust, the main theme as the speakers are talking tonight.
Now, I've been tracking the GOP convention website, and they haven't released the speakers that I can see for tonight. Do you have any insight as to who's going to be speaking tonight?
Not a lot. We do know that Nikki Haley is going to be speaking tonight.
Really?
She was not Yes, she is not She was not originally invited to be on the convention stage in a speaking role, but that changed when the campaign and the Trump campaign and the convention announced on Sunday that she was going to be added to the schedule. Of course, the former governor and the former ambassador, she was the last and the biggest rival to Donald Trump during the GOP primaries, and she now has instructed her delegates to go ahead and vote for Trump, which happened with that roll call yesterday. And so this is seen as kind of an interesting move by Donald Trump, because there were some harsh words between those two in the primary. But that's how politics goes. You have those infights in the primary process. But in terms of other speakers, you guys, it's always a closely held list. And those of us here in the press corps working the convention in Milwaukee, we didn't get that official list of the speakers until very late in the afternoon before the evening program started. So we'll probably have to wait a few more hours to find out who's on the stage tonight.
Can you give us a sense of what's happening outside of the RNC convention? Again, we're talking with Greg Cluckston. He's a White House news correspondent for Salem. Are there protests taking place outside? What's the atmosphere like in Milwaukee itself?
Yeah, it's a beautiful Midwestern city, and it has been like, as what happens with these political conventions, the immediate area surrounding the convention hall. In this case, it's the Fiserv Forum, the basketball home for the Milwaukee Bucks. And so outside the arena, you have very tight security. There's a several block security perimeter. So there's a bit of a lockdown here right in the heart of downtown Milwaukee. But pedestrians and convention goers and things, they can get very close to the venue. And if they're convention goers, they can be right inside. But there are all kinds of vendors outside and restaurants that people can be attending. And there are other programs that happen on the sidelines of these conventions besides the main stage speeches that we saw last night. There are movie previews for if movies that are going to be coming out that might have a conservative theme. For example, there's one on the life of Ronald Reagan, and they're doing several screenings of that. And they've got like sidebar workshops and things that are happening on the sidelines. And of course, there's lots of networking. There are lots of political leaders, lawmakers from Congress, as well as local and state leaders who are here, along with the grassroots supporters of the GOP. So there's a lot of networking going on inside and outside the convention hall.
Greg Clugston, White House news correspondent for Salem Media, the people that sign our checks, joining Jeff and Bill live. I know going to a convention or these type of events with that press pass is different because it sort of insulates you. You're not there as an attendee. You're in sort of this bubble. Now, what I want to ask you, Mr. Clugston, is what is the most unusual interaction, something you've seen, something you've encountered? What's the thing just in your short time in Milwaukee so far that has made you go, that's interesting? What's caught your attention that you didn't expect?
Yeah, so far, there hasn't been anything out of the ordinary. I wish I had a great moment to share that would just like stand out and have your listeners' hair stand on their end or whatever. But so far, it's been such an interesting way to come in, because the thing that stands out to me actually happened on Saturday. And that's when I was on the plane to Milwaukee. And the last 15 minutes of my flight is when I learned about the shooting at the Trump rally in Pennsylvania. And I was on a Southwest flight, so we had live TV coverage. So I was actually watching those early moments of the TV news coverage of that. And so I was thinking I might get into town on Saturday night and have a little downtime before I hit the ground running on Sunday and yesterday. But as soon as we got here, we had to start filing and reporting on what was happening with, obviously, the seriousness of that attack against Donald Trump, and then what the ramifications were going to be for the convention. So really, it was how that event was going to potentially color this convention. How was it going to shift the tone and the tenor, possibly the schedule of events? Largely, the events have not been changed here at the convention because of what happened on Saturday. But I would say that was such a unique way for this convention to get underway, because it was such a serious and somber event on Saturday leading into this week.
That's amazing. And Mr. Cluckston, what I'd like you to do is to explore that a little bit, because our listener doesn't have the experience of being the news person on the level that you do. And talk to us about what happens. You're in the plane and now you hear this story. Your news brain has to click, but you're trapped. You can't do anything. You can't make any, you're not able to make calls. You can't start some of the work. So you have to absorb some of it and then talk to us about how it changes your perspective as you're walking into covering the GOP National Convention. I liked how you talked about the idea of changing the tenor, changing the pace. Talk to us about that decision-making process that you go through, having to be an outside observer, but also have to figure out where those news stories are.
Sure. What's interesting is I mentioned that I was out in Southwest, and we have this TV live feed, which that airline offers when you're flying with them. I spoke to some colleagues that I know, for example, at ABC and CNN yesterday, ran into them at the convention hall, and they were on an American Airlines flight that was having problems with its Wi-Fi. So they were completely in the dark until they landed. So they had a much different experience. But in terms of kind of shifting gears, as a working journalist and person in the news business for a number of years now, you just are ready to jump into whatever mode is, and you can't be emotional about it. At least that's my experience. And you distance yourself from the emotion of the event and just track down what the details are. We had to coordinate with our newsroom in Washington, D.C. and my bureau chief in terms of our immediate coverage and our special reports that took place. And so you're just ready at a moment's notice to click into gear. You flip open your laptop and you're sending text and trying to gather information. So it's just being at the ready to quickly turn around information as quickly as possible, obviously, but as accurately as possible as well.
That's a great description. I have a former news friend, and she described it as being a news person is showing up every day at the circus as if you're the person being shot out of the cannon, but you don't know where you're going. They just come up and go, here's your helmet. And you're like, okay. And then boom, something happens. And then you got to go to work. It said it's exciting, but you got to be ready anytime because you have no idea when that knock on the door is going to happen and go, your helmet, sir. Yeah, exactly. Now,
that's exactly right. I would just say one other thing that helped me personally, and I know a lot of other colleagues would have this very same experience covering Washington, D.C., and particularly the White House and presidential races and past administrations. But I have attended as a news person several, Trump rallies over the years. So I understand what the general layout of these events looks like, what the security tends to be. And so I was able to bring that sort of context to my reporting and on, talking to news, affiliates and stations across the country, just like you guys.
Oh, now, Mr. Cluckston, what I'm going to ask a favor of you is one, keep an eye out for those unusual stories. We'd love to have you share that with a listener later this week, but also would love to have you kind of talk to us later this week about your reaction to how the tone and tenor, not only in the reporting has changed, but maybe even what we're hearing up on stage. How have the events of this past weekend, the nearly tragic events involving President Trump, how has that changed the crowd's enthusiasm, in your opinion, from what you've seen at the rallies, some of the messaging, things like that? Would really love to see that insight because you're there on the ground and you've got a really interesting perspective. I hope you can do that for us later this week.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. And we'll just plan to do this every morning here for the next couple of days.
Yep, Greg Cluckston's going to be joining us. Greg, I do have one question for you. You're the White House news correspondent for Salem Media. One of the more kind of hot, controversial speakers last night was Amber Rose. Here's a few of her remarks.
My message to you tonight comes from a humble place. The left told me to hate Trump, and even worse, to hate the other side, the people who support him. When you cut through the lies, you realize the truth. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. we were safer, wealthier, and stronger. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to put money back in our pockets and good food on our kids' plates. Yes. Or, as Trump would say, it's a vote to make America great again. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So Amber Rose comes from a background that most Republicans probably aren't all that supportive of. She's got an OnlyFans account, which means she kind of dabbles, I believe, in more salacious content that people pay for. She's been linked to Kanye West in the past. And so she shows up
dressed appropriately.
I was going to say, kind of dressed like a Republican woman would normally dress.
Yeah, that surprised me.
She's got tattoos along her forehead hairline, which was a little unique. A lot of social conservatives were tweeting online that they were not happy that she was invited to be a part of this, but a Republican convention is to showcase a broad tent. Can you give us a sense of maybe what you felt in the room, Greg Cluckston, as she came on? What I noticed on television is that she didn't have the warmest reception when she walked out, but then when she left, there seemed to be people supporting her. So can you give us a little insight as to the tenure, the tone and of her speech yesterday?
You're right. It was more of a polite response initially, I think, from the crowd. It didn't, despite her presentable appearance there in terms of her apparel and all the rest, she obviously stood out and looked a lot different than kind of what, in fact, what social conservatives, would say what they would expect from the Republican Party. But you hit it on the head too about the idea about this being a big tent, and it's always important for politicians to not just speak to their base of support, but find ways to expand their base of support. And having Amber Rose on the stage, a model and a rapper, and the age of her, the color of her skin, the reach to how she influences a certain generation, all of that was very strategic, I think, by Donald Trump and the convention to try and reach and branch out. Now, are the people that they're trying to reach with an Amber Rose appearance tuning in and watching on CNN or Fox News? Probably not. But there might be a lot of video hits and replays on TikTok and other platforms that would reach that very audience. So it looked to me like it was right out of the Donald Trump playbook, because he loves individuals like this who are successful in their own way from a business standpoint, and who sometimes are very colorful and charismatic individuals. And he saw this as potentially reaching out to somebody and a crowd of voters that maybe he couldn't reach himself.
Greg Cluckston, to that point, I posted a series of videos of different speeches on my X account. I'll just go through these real quick. Tim Scott, very fiery speech. I have about 3,000 views on that. Charlie Kirk, I posted about 1,500 views on that. Even Donald Trump walking in, I got about 1,000 views on him walking in with the bandaged ear. Amber Rose has 131,000 views on my X account, and all I did was post that clip that I just played for you all to give you a sense of her viral capabilities. She is reaching much further than just about anybody else. So you think, from your sense, a good move from the president, Greg?
I think so. If you're looking at expanding your base of support, expanding the electoral map when it comes to vote in November, absolutely. And obviously, someone like Senator Tim Scott and Senator Marsha Blackburn and Governor Youngkin, they are going to speak to certain constituencies. And someone like Amber is going to perhaps have an entirely different audience that she can reach with her message that Trump and the Republicans hope can translate into more votes come November.
Well, Greg Cluckston, White House news correspondent for Salem, will be watching tonight and look forward to your reporting again tomorrow. We know you're very busy. Thank you so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill show here in Denver.
Well, you're welcome. A lot of fun. We'll talk to you tomorrow, guys.
Thank you, Greg. Speaking of Greg, coming up next, Greg Lopez, congressman from Congressional District 4, will be calling in. We'll be talking a little bit about the convention, but I'm more interested in what the first 2 weeks of work have been like for him. He's had to deal with
You know where the bathroom is.
a planned
That's the number one thing.
assassination attempt against a former president and future president as well. So we're going to have a great conversation with Greg Lopez coming up. You're not going to want to miss it. I do want to talk to you about my friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. Who you choose to represent you says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. He's the son of a police officer. He's also a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. So you got a guy that's with us on the values and is a titan in the courtroom. Dan Caplis Law, official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Look, Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, and he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call. He'd be my first call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551. Or hit DanCaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. Coming up just next, Greg Lopez, Congressman from Colorado's Congressional District 4. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Former President Donald Trump made an appearance on the first night of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Just 2 days after he survived an assassination attempt at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, Trump's right ear was covered with a large white bandage. The former president will be formally nominated as his party's presidential candidate on Thursday, when he'll give a primetime speech. Pyongyang says there will be devastating consequences for South Korea over leaflets sent across the border between the two countries. Last month, balloons full of trash were sent in the opposite direction from North Korea. Chris Gilbert reports.
This latest sailing of balloons from South Korea across the DMZ is the latest in a spate of back and forth, tit-for-tat, similar exchanges between North Korea and South Korea, which peaked last month when Pyongyang sent more than 300 balloons full of leaflets and trash across the DMZ, saying at that time that they wanted the South Koreans to experience how annoying and cumbersome the cleanup is. But the rhetoric has been heightened with this latest exchange, with Kim Yo-jong, the sister of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, calling the acts dirty and petty.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
So what's the world like when all of a sudden you become a congressman?
How
does your life change? And what happens in those first few weeks? Well, we have insight that no other station is going to have. Yeah.
They're calling you the honorable. That's a big thing to live up to, especially for me. I mean, geez.
Would that help?
No, not really. No, not in the least. No.
The Honorable Billy Thorpe.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Honorable Billy Thorpe
That would
show.
not help at all. That would not help. And on a side note, do you hear the story about Kevin Bacon before we get to the guest?
No.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon recently, he says that living like you and I sucks. He said being one of the poor is awful.
Didn't he go and become poor for a day
what
or
he did is he went out and he got his special effects people put a whole bunch of makeup on him, so he didn't look like he again, not even attractive, just made him kind of unattractive and made him look much, much different. And he went out and tried to live for a day, and he's like, regular life sucks. He's like, people were mean to me, they were pushing past me, they didn't care. And I'm like, yeah, that's called real life. Good job. Buckle up.
See, I don't know if
Come
I
on.
would want to be that famous.
Yeah, no.
I think it would get old very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of like just being by myself, going to a supermarket, that type of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's much nicer.
Constant selfies.
Oh,
I
there's
don't
no
know.
way.
Not for me.
Yeah.
Not that I won't take a selfie, but I'm not that famous. All right. Speaking of being famous, Congressman Greg Lopez joins us on the Jeff and Bill Show. He's the newly elected congressman from Congressional District 4, elected via special election to finish Ken Buck's term. So he's got 6 months to make all the impact he can against the deep state. Greg, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to be on.
So are you in Milwaukee? Do you get to be part of the convention out there?
No, I'm not in Milwaukee. Actually, I'm here in Colorado. This morning, I'm attending the Colorado Livestock Association annual meeting.
Fantastic.
Like I told people, I came to work. I didn't get into this to go be with the muckety mucks when it comes to all those parties and so forth. So I thought about going, but at the end of the day, I had so much to do to represent the good people of CD4. So I'm working.
So I think it was just about a week ago, was it, that you were sworn in?
That's true. I got sworn in last Monday night, and the leader, the speaker, I should say, Speaker Johnson, did the swearing in front of the entire Congress. And I'm told that, that doesn't happen necessarily for the special elections candidate. So it was an honor for me to take the oath in front of the entire Congress that evening. And of course, I had my lovely wife, Lisa, of 36 years with me, and my daughter, Christina. So it's definitely a night to remember.
Oh, that's super special. Now, Greg, another most important question. Have you figured out where the bathroom is yet?
I'll tell you, I haven't quite figured out where they are right now. Right?
Good.
I still have to ask people, is it this way or that way?
Oh, that's good.
So you've been given an office. Can you talk about a little bit about your staff, who you're building up, the committees you're going to be on? What have you done the first week?
Yeah, of course. Not only have I took over Congressman Ken Buck's old office, so I'm in the Rayburn building on the 4th floor. And so I am in the process of acquiring my team. I do have everybody identified in DC, and I'm finalizing the last final details for the staff here in Colorado. But I sit on the two committees that I'm sitting on. One is the budget committee, so I get to evaluate, which is kind of good because all the departments and all the different divisions have to go through the budget committee. So I get to see every request from the different appropriations bills. And then I also sit on the science and technology. So that's very helpful because, as you know, we have Lockheed Martin here in Douglas County in CD4. So that's going to be a very beneficial. I did go to my first committee hearings the week that I was there. I was able to share a couple of my insights as it pertains to the budget. And so I was told that, that they really appreciated my remarks because it's something that they need to hear, specifically someone that's just been sworn in. And really, it was about prioritizing, right? Let's prioritize this thing. Let's make sure that we just don't throw everything up there and figure out, which is the best change that we can make. And of course, there was some markups on some bills. I voted, guys, on the floor. I was able to vote on two very important bills. One is the SMART bill, which basically says that if you're not a United States citizen, you cannot vote in any election that has a federal candidate on it. You would think that would be a no-brainer, but clearly, with the influx of illegal immigration that's happening and how people are able to get driver's license and so forth, so that was one. And then the other one that I'm really proud of is the one with Title IX. As you know, I've been involved with Protect Kids Colorado before I went to Congress and trying to make sure that girls' sports here in Colorado are protected for the transgender boys. And that was the same thing that we voted in Congress, was to do away with the executive order that President Biden did on the revisions of Title IX. So it passed the House. Don't know what's going to happen in the Senate, but it's been a busy week.
Sounds like it. Do you think those are going to pass the Senate? Give us your read on those two bills.
You know, it's hard to say, right? I mean, now with everything that's going on, my hope is that they will understand that we have a job to do in the people's house while there's a lot of distractions, and specifically, we need to focus a lot on what happened with the attempted assassination of former President Trump. We definitely need to get to the bottom of what occurred there.
Have you received on that note, have you received a briefing on that yet?
I have.
And what can you tell us? Is there anything classified at this point or anything that we may not know out of the news?
No, I would say, there's a couple of details that maybe I know a little bit more, but predominantly 98%, 95% of what you're hearing out there on the news is what is being put together. But when we get back, we expect to get some more information. We did have a special call last Sunday, or this past Sunday, with leadership, to them giving us the insights and also to make sure that all members are being protected. Everyone in Congress is being protected, either with a protective detail if they feel they need one, but definitely highlighting the security of all the members of Congress. So, yeah, it's interesting times and what's happening in our country.
Have you gotten any insight on Secret Service failures or details on what happened and why they waited so long, 86 seconds, to shoot the perpetrator?
Jeff, a lot of people may not know. I used to do advanced work for the Vice Presidents of the United States. I worked very closely with Secret Service. I can tell you that from my perspective and my training, there was a colossal failure with the Secret Service in protecting former President Trump. As to why the failure occurred, that's the answer. That's the questions we're going to be asking, because every indication shows that never should have happened, specifically with a security detail for a former vice president. And so only time will tell, but I'm going to tell you, I don't think we're going to get the answers, and people are not going to like the answers that we get. My hope is that they don't stall, right? They've already delayed. I just got notification that they delayed the first hearing. The Secret Service has delayed the first hearing with Congress, which leads me to believe that they're trying to circle the wagons. They're trying to figure out, how do we create the narrative? How do we CYA any of the mistakes that we made? I do believe that it's time for heads to roll at the top of that agency.
Well, and I wonder too, how much, because I've talked to law enforcement, and a lot of the folks that work in law enforcement wouldn't get into law enforcement these days, because you pull that trigger, you can't undo it, and everything is scrutinized. And so if you're looking at a guy and you're not quite sure if he's local police or what's going on, and you shoot to kill like a sniper has to, I wonder if the politicization of prosecuting police officers for simply, in many cases, just doing their job has now made them scared to pull the trigger. I wonder if that was part of the component. Miscommunication. Look, there's so many aspects of this. You can even go into the DEI hiring practices of the Secret Service. But man, I think we've put so much pressure on our police officers that they could end up in prison for life. They could end up sued if they pull the trigger and it's the wrong thing, that now, they're hesitant to pull the trigger. What do you think?
Well, let me tell you, Jeff. I mean, you got a point, but for this specific event, for this specific issue, they should have reported through radio, because everybody has a radio mechanism on them. They should have notified the Secret Service that are standing by the stage that there is a concern with someone with a gun, and they would have stopped the proceedings. They would have brought him down. They would not have allowed him to continue to speak. That they could have done. As far as pulling the trigger, that's another conversation. But they should have gone, they should have given a warning. They should have made sure that he was out of harm's way. Should have done with the shooter. And then once they felt that everything was back in a security format that they were comfortable with, or they could have just stopped the rally. And it's happened many a times in some of my events where something happens that no one was thinking of. And you just make the rally short, because the most important thing is to protect the life of the former President Trump. So there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of questions as to what actually occurred.
I think you're exactly right. I'm glad you're staying on top of that. I mean, that was heartbreaking. And to your credit, Greg, you jumped on the phone lines with us the Saturday it happened, within hours of that happening, to give us your insight, along with Lauren Boebert. Greg Lopez, you're a new congressman. How are the colleagues treating you? Have you gone over to talk to Diana DeGette or Brittany Pedersen or any of those other folks?
Well, you know what? I have a new nickname within Congress, and that is, I'm the new guy. Everywhere I go, it's like, oh, you're the new guy. It's like, yeah, that would be.
You're the FNG. Yeah, we all know that one. Yep, you're the FNG. That's exactly it, my friend.
That's right. So, you know what? But look, Congresswoman DeGette, in my swearing-in ceremony, she stood up, and as the most senior member of the Colorado congressional delegation, she introduced the certification to the speaker. She made the opening remarks. She talked very graciously about my background and my experience with the Denver Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and SBA and being the mayor. And so she was very gracious, said some very kind words. And then Senator Doug Lamborn did the same. And then the speaker asked all the delegation to come down for Colorado as I took the oath. So my colleagues were standing next to me. And so I did get a chance to shake some hands and talk to them briefly. So, but I haven't had a sit down, as you can imagine. The first week, it's a lot of catching up on bills, a lot of catching up with individuals. But we did have, my wife and I we were invited, I think it was the second night we were there, we were invited to have dinner with Speaker Johnson, along with there was probably 12 of us that had dinner, a private dinner with him. And it was a great conversation we had. Of course, this was all before Saturday. But yeah, it's I sit on, for example, one of my colleagues sits on the Science and Technology Committee with me. So yeah, we'll see what next week brings.
Well, if you ever want to find them, I'm sure there's plenty of cocktail parties that Michael Bennett and John Hickenlooper and the rest of them are attending out there in Washington, D.C. But speaking of insider information, we got a text message here. Our listeners would love to know any stock tips, since you members of Congress make so much money after you get elected. Is there any insider information that would help our listeners become just as wealthy?
Yeah, whatever meeting they take you in to, screenshots, something you can help us out with here, because we need some help.
Well, here's the thing. I haven't had that briefing yet. So maybe I'll have it when I get back.
Okay, good. And then you'll share it with us immediately. I appreciate that. Now, also, Greg Lopez, want to let you keep your eyes open and be careful of any congressional hazing, because you are the FNG. I don't know your past experience, but I know that the country club I worked at for a while, one of the first things you did with the FNG is you asked them to go find the wall stretcher. So you'd send them on a snipe hunt, because there was no wall stretcher, but everybody in the country club knew you were playing the game. And so you just kept sending that person to somewhere else. Oh, I think John had it. John had the wall stretcher. No, Sally had it in the back of the kitchen. Yeah. And so be careful. If they're going to name you to some sort of weird sending committee or something, don't show up. Just don't show up.
I love that advice. I think I'll take it.
Greg Lopez, newly elected congressman, newly sworn in congressman from Congressional District 4. Thanks so much for taking time to give us a little insight on what it's like to be a congressman, 10 days into the new job.
That's right. Hey, no, it's a pleasure to be on your show, guys. we're working hard. We're going to make sure that we protect the quality of life and the livelihoods of all the people in CD4. And so that's why I'm up here tonight. This morning, attending the Colorado Livestock Association annual meeting, because there's a lot going on in ranching and agriculture. But thank you.
Especially in your district. Congressman Lopez, it's great to say that. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
All right, take care, guys. Bye.
Hey, want to speak to you about my good friend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. I've known Gay through this job here at the station, and she is absolutely wonderful. A few reasons why you should use Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team to sell your home. First of all, selling your home is a very stressful thing to do, right? You got to deal with all the home inspections and negotiations. You want to work with someone that's just really easy to work with. Gay Ribble's a delightful person that's going to carry you through some of the most stressful decisions you're going to make about your life and your home and your new home. So that's number one. Number two, she supports the values of this radio station, and she gives back to the community. She's supporting orphans in the state of Colorado because she was an orphan herself. She found her forever home. They helped raise her to be the woman she is today. She wants to help kids find their forever homes as well. So she supports making this state a better place. And number three, she's a titan when it comes to selling homes. Listen to this. She gets her clients an average of $30,000 more because she's got a database of over 14,700 people, all pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. So look, we all got friends, family members, and neighbors that are agents and want to sell our home, but this is a business deal for you and your family. You got to get top dollar. She'll deliver an extra $30,000 on average for her clients because of that exclusive database she has, and she sells the home an average of 1.5 times faster. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will help you sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Give them a call, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. When we return, we head back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin with the Republican National Convention, and Tom Tradup, Vice President of News and Talk Programming for Salem News Network, will be joining us. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Tom Tradup is going to join us. He's Vice President of News and Talk Programming at Salem Radio Network. We're going to ask him, where in the world is Ron DeSantis?
Yeah, where is he? Where is he? He and Carmen hanging out. What's going on? Why is he not there?
Come on. It's the RNC convention. I haven't heard anything. Maybe it's a speech coming a little bit later. Nikki Haley's going to be tonight. What to expect with that? But where is Ron?
Yeah.
Billy,
Where
that's
is
a
Ron?
Great question you brought up.
Yeah, we're talking off air. Where the heck is Ron? I mean, the thing that would be funny is to have his entire group show up and him there and his entire contingent in those white boots. So everybody's all wearing boots as a teammate, those white boots he was wearing.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, the
I was
big white
thinking
boots.
these boots are made for walking.
No, but that's what he could do. He get his boots are made for walking. You play that, you walk around, you got the white boots on. It's all theme.
So we're going to go back to the RNC convention in the 9 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, the Honorable Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, crazy, and straight from the heart of Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the RNC convention. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole another hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So get another cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up here in just a second, Tom Tradup Vice President of News and Talk Programming at Salem Radio Network, is going to give us a little insight into the RNC convention. We're going to ask him, where in the world is Ron DeSantis? Haven't seen much of him yet, and the convention's already kicking off. Plus, Nikki Haley takes the stage tonight. I can be honest, most of the people I know that are Nikki Haley fans are never Trumpers. Can she bring them over? If Nikki's willing to come over and join the warm, comfortable water that makes up the MAGA pool, well, then can the never Trumpers come on over? Because Joe Biden, come on, people. It's time to put that man out to pasture. All right, let's get to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 75 and sunny in Denver. Expecting highs in the upper 80s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
I never felt more free and more love for my country than I do now. I want to thank my father, who's in the audience tonight, for opening my eyes. He served over 20 years in the U.S. military. Thank you for your service, Dad.
Amen. Model and rapper Amber Rose at the RNC. She was told by her father, no, Amber, Donald Trump is not a racist. She figured it out herself. Good for her, supports Trump and MAGA, and moved the crowd last night. And 2 days after he was the target of an assassination, former President Trump entered the arena at the RNC in Milwaukee with a bandage on his right ear. There was plenty of excitement and energy, especially after it was announced that JD Vance of Ohio is his vice presidential running mate.
You know, he just said, look, I think we've got to go save this country. I think you're the guy who can help me in the best way. You can help me govern. You can help me win. You can help me in some of these Midwestern states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and so forth. And he said rightfully that we have been very, very close for a long time, but especially since I endorsed you in 2022. And I would not have won that race without Donald Trump's endorsement. And the president's trust then and his partnership since then has been something I value a great deal.
RNC Committeeman Randy Corporon is there and on with Jeff and Bill this morning and talked about Trump's entrance.
He looked weary. He looked resolute. The size of that bandage on his ear, tells me this wasn't just a little nick. But he crawled up those steps and turned to the adoring throngs of people and the people that were sitting around me and the beautiful lady that I'm here with literally started to cry. I mean, it was that emotional of a moment.
Greg Cluckston, White House correspondent for Salem Media, on the show this morning, also had a lot of questions going in.
It was how that event was going to potentially color this convention. How was it going to shift the tone and the tenor, possibly the schedule of events? Largely, the events have not been changed here at the convention because of what happened on Saturday. But I would say that was such a unique way for this convention to get underway because it was such a serious and somber event on Saturday.
The theme in Milwaukee today will be Make America Safe Again, with speakers on deck to talk about supporting law enforcement and securing the southern border. The FBI's search of the home of Thomas Crooks is complete. They combed through the residence where the 20-year-old lived. The biggest issue is how he got on the roof. How did he have so much time to get positioned on the roof and fire the shots on Saturday? Hundreds of people saw him. Colorado's Lauren Boebert says that it was intentional or the Secret Service was grossly incompetent, and she's introduced a bill to hold them accountable. Trump's immunity case dismissed on Monday, and Trump attorney Todd Blanche on with Hugh Hewitt this morning. How about the Mersham trial in New York? They want that one thrown out as well.
Saturday was just a very sad day for this country, and it's in part a reflection of the lawfare, in my view, that's been happening against President Trump, including the DA in the Manhattan case. And I hope that Judge Mersham does it. I really do. It would go a long way, in my view, to healing some of the wounds that we have. And look, I've spent the past year being disappointed, so I don't want to get too excited, but I really hope Judge Mersham agrees with our motion and throws this case out.
Colorado Governor Polis has ordered all flags half-staffed today in honor of firefighter Corey Comprator, who was shot and killed during the assassination attempt at the Trump rally. He loved his family, community, God, his job, his country. Great move by the governor. 73 in Littleton, 72 in Lakewood, 75 in Denver.
Here's your 7-10 5-day forecast. This is textbook mid-July weather for Denver. It's going to be warm, but not as hot as it's been, and afternoon and evening thunderstorms will be a common occurrence. Upper 80s today, low to mid-80s Wednesday, 80s and lower 90s Thursday and Friday, with a daily chance of afternoon and evening scattered thunderstorms, nights 50s and low 60s. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, join us as we head back to the RNC convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Tom Tradup's the vice president of news and talk programming with Salem Radio Network. Tom, we hear that Nikki Haley may take the stage tonight. What do you expect to see from Nikki?
Well, she's the least of the problems here. The big problem is trying to get all the people put in here with a shoehorn, because it's it's like this bacchanal. Everybody everywhere is trying to get in the doors, and I've never seen security like this. I got to the venue here this morning where we have what we laughingly refer to as Media Row, and I'm here with the Salem Radio Network right across the hall from us. I could hit him if I spit at him, which I might do, is Dan Bongino. We got David Webb from Sirius XM. I mean, everybody who's anybody except you two are here. And it's probably because they wanted Bill, but they didn't want Jeff. So they said, okay, just leave them. Leave them. I'm only kidding.
It is the honorable Billy Thorpe. It makes him feel good.
We decided that's it. Yeah, we had Greg Lopez, newly minted congressman, won the special election here in Colorado. And we talked to him about the idea that once they call you honorable, does that make you behave better? Because I probably need the help.
But anyway, no, to answer your question, I mean, the place is an absolute zoo. We got here this morning at 5:30 a.m. Central Time, and it took us 90 minutes once we were a block away to get through the security checkpoints. I mean, it's really, really tight because of obviously the unfortunate shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania over the weekend. And you saw on TV last night, I'm sure, the electrifying moment when President Trump walked in, and the crowd, I mean, you could have literally felt the building shake. The crowd went so crazy, and you can imagine what it's going to be like Thursday night. But Nikki Haley is in the neighborhood, put it that way, and it's going to be an all-star event once again today. Here on Media Row, we've been interviewing in the last 45 minutes. We had Marjorie Taylor Greene. We had Congressman Mike Waltz, the defense expert, one of the people who's investigating, as your newsman said at the top of the hour. Everybody in Congress is after the Secret Service for this abysmal security breach that endangered the life of the president. I mean, it's so scary, guys. I mean, you know how it is in life. It's sort of like you put a Pop-Tart in the toaster and you eat it, and then, 20 minutes later, you don't remember you've even had anything for breakfast. The way the news cycle works, we get so swept up by today's events or today's headline. It seems like a year ago that Trump was shot, but it was only 48 hours ago, or 72 hours ago. And the idea that if he had flinched slightly one way or the other, we'd be talking about having a funeral instead of a coronation on Thursday night. It's pretty scary stuff, but we're here in Milwaukee, and I just want to give you a little bit of the flavor of it. So throw questions
Tom,
at me, and I'll tell you what's happening.
Tom, I think Salem's doing the best job providing all-around coverage of what's happening at the RNC convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. How can people connect with the different Salem channels? I know Mike Gallagher's there broadcasting. Is that right?
Yeah, way probably would be if you go to the salemnewschannel.com, and that's our OTT television station, and they can see, for example, Gallagher, who's on when you guys are on the network. You'd be seeing him interviewing right now. Lee Greenwood is with him, who sang last night live. He's a guy who's 81 years old. He's been singing God Bless the USA since the Reagan era. And he missed a couple of notes last night. I'm not a music critic, but there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I'll tell you, when he was singing and Donald Trump walked in and meets his running mate, who's 40 years younger than Trump. So he's probably JD Vance, the future of the MAGA movement. And this is really a lot going on here, but I'd say go to the salemnewschannel.com. That's one way, or you can always go, in Mike Gallagher's case, you go to mikeonline.com. He's got a live feed of his show. Dr. Gorka, Sebastian Gorka, is going to be here, tomorrow, Thursday. His wife is a delegate to the convention, and he's floating around here somewhere, but he's going to be doing a show on Thursday just as probably a way to offload his expenses for coming out here with his wife. He's not doing a week long. I'm just kidding if anybody heard that. I'm only kidding.
Yes, J. Edgar, we're only kidding.
Tom, I got to ask you, why do you think Donald Trump chose JD Vance? Or was it a good pick? What's the sense in the room there?
Everybody seems to think that it was a great pick. He just wanted somebody who would generationally, let's spit it out, be a contrast with him, and not just have nothing wrong with any of the people that were considered. Doug Burgum, fine guy, good governor. The rest of them, Tim Scott, all the rest of the people, Marco Rubio, they all would have been fine. But there's something about JD Vance, his story, both from his author days, Hillbilly Elegy, his best-selling book, and then stunning everybody in Ohio. He was running behind his opponent in the Senate race in Ohio until Donald Trump stepped in and corrected him, gave him a course correction and a big endorsement. And he's the reason that JD is in the Senate. And I hear these crybaby whiners going, but he's only been in the Senate for less than 2 years and he hasn't really done anything. He hasn't passed anything. I go, good. That's another reason to like the guy. It's like when they say they're going to cut down, they're going to shut down the Congress when they get in these interminable budget battles. And they say, oh, it's in danger if they shut the Congress down. I go, me personally, this is not the view of the Salem Media Corporation or KNUS Radio. I'm just telling you, for my money, they could shut Congress down, board it up, and put circus posters on the outside of it. We got enough laws. We got enough regulations. We don't need one more to be done. They don't need to spend one more dime. That's not going to happen. But he's a guy who is not somebody who's some bloviating legislator who will be in Congress for 12 terms. If he didn't become vice president, I bet you he probably would have served a term and gotten out and done something else. He's a dynamic guy who certainly can articulate the Trump agenda. And in my view, again, not necessarily the views of the Salem Media Corporation. In my personal view, I bet yesterday when the announcement was made, the one person I wouldn't have wanted to be was Kamala Harris, because I bet you she wet her pants knowing that she was going to have to debate this guy.
Tom Tradup, Vice President of News and Talk Programming for Salem Radio Network, joining Jeff and Bill live. He is in Milwaukee, giving us a flavor of the convention. Now, Tom, I know you're high up on the totem pole, so you understand that I'm the problem child in the family here. I'm the one that causes the problems, yes. So the question I've got is fundamentally, could the Democrats come at the selection of Vance and say that Trump is trying to just duplicate what Biden did? Biden chose Kamala Harris in part because of the minority status, but also, look, see, I have young friends too. I know young people like me. Could we also say that maybe Donald Trump is trying to do that with JD Vance? Why not?
Well, yeah, he could, but then in that case, he could get Ricky Schroeder or,
Yeah, as long as I get to ride on that train on silver spoons. If he gets me right on the train, I'm good. I'm good with Ricky
Yeah,
Schroeder.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's not a question of simply the age. It's more a question of J.D. Vance's philosophy, his dynamism when he's on the campaign trail. If you see him on TV, he was on with Hannity for about an hour yesterday afternoon or early evening before they had the events last night. And the guy is just totally articulate. He's a great spokesman, unlike Biden's pick.
Good
Biden,
point.
I think, picked the vice president with all due respect to her and her fine career in the Senate. I think he picked her for identity politics. You know, the Democratic Party, you either have to be a person of color or a female or a left-handed dwarf with a brain tumor in order to have them pick you to be on a national ticket, because they don't want to have, quote, two white guys running. And that's fine. I think I'm all for inclusion. I've got a wife and a daughter, and I'm all for women and, people being equal and everything else. But it'd be good if he had picked a female who actually had a brain in her head, as opposed to somebody who seems to not be able to make a sentence. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure that her brain can generate enough electricity to move her feet.
Yeah. Tom, I see what you're saying about that, because, but again, we're talking about the Democrats. Finding a Democrat with a brain, you're going to be spending millennials trying to find that one. That's going to be real difficult. That's a real high bar to set. So talk to me about JD Vance and the voters he brings to the table. You talked about the younger voter. I think he plays well with veterans. What other voting constituencies does JD Vance help the president shore up?
Yeah, well, he's a combat veteran, as you said. I think he's somebody who brings the military expertise. He's somebody who has certainly a common man touch. How much more common can you get than being a hillbilly? Okay, he's not Jed Clampett, but he's a guy who relates so well to the common people, as opposed to our friends on the other side of the aisle who tend to be more concerned about elites. I think JD Vance, and look at the whole lineup last night, the kind of people who spoke, Anna Rose, the influencer with 24 million.
I want to ask you about her, because I posted her speech, just a small clip of her speech on my X account, and it has 150,000 views in the last, less than 12 hours or so.
The thing you posted.
Just the clip of her and a brief speech. And Matt Walsh is out there today saying this is horrible that the Republicans put her up there. This is the idea that we're abandoning our values. She's a pornographic star. She's, makes money with OnlyFans. She dates rappers. She's got tattoos along her forehead.
Right.
What's your take from the Republicans in the room that she was on the main stage yesterday?
I think the whole point of the message last night, and they didn't ask me. I'm just sort of a loudmouth who is there with a press credential, but it apparently the whole purpose of last night was to show inclusion, to show common people, to show a guy who's trying to buy his first house but can't afford to show the union head there who was on there talking about labor. Not all of them necessarily people who might even vote for Donald Trump. Some of them are just people they wanted to have on who are average men and women who reflect the nightmare that is Bidenomics. And when you have somebody on, use Michael Steele. I hope you all know him. He's on MSNBC now. Years ago, before Hugh Hewitt was doing mornings on the network, we had a guy named Bill Bennett. Bill used to be Secretary of Education under President Reagan. In fact, he was the only talk show host in America ever confirmed 3 times by the U.S. Senate. He was Secretary of Education. He was the chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities. And he also was the nation's first drug czar under George H.W. Bush's father.
I have to say this, Tom, just interrupt for a second. I used to run Bill's show here at Salem, Denver at the time when he was on. So yes,
cool.
I ran his show here.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Listen to him hours and hours and hours. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When he got to a point, his wife runs it, still does. His wife, Elaine, wonderful woman, runs something called the Best Friends Foundation. Its a purpose and mission is to get girls to essentially, as much as possible, have celibacy and not become pregnant and become teen mothers and all that kind of thing. And they have fundraisers like many foundations 5 days a week. And Bill couldn't go to many of them because he's on at 3 a.m, East Coast time or whatever. And so he said, I want to stop doing Fridays. And we looked at him like he was some kind of crazy person. He said, yeah, I got to get Fridays off. So we hired a guy named Rick Santorum. Rick. He was just here with us yesterday, former senator from Pennsylvania. And he did Fridays for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, until he decided to run for president. So when he left to campaign, we hired the lieutenant governor of Maryland, a guy named Michael Steele, African-American, conservative, strong on all the issues that are now called MAGA, which is a pejorative for Biden, but everybody else gets what's Make America Great Again. And Michael Steele was on, and people loved him, and he was a conservative, and he was great. He ran for chairman of the Republican National Committee and got elected, and was presiding over one of the national campaigns. Here comes Congressman Jim Jordan walking by. There he is. It's like being in Disneyland here.
For us political nerds, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So anyway, bottom line on him is, I don't know if he just couldn't get a job after he was RNC chairman or what. He ends up on MSNBC, and now he's the big anti-Trump, never Trump liberal. And I like Michael. He's a nice man. If I saw him here, I'd give him a hug and buy him a cup of coffee. But I like people who are rooted in the same values, not who's paying, their paycheck. And so we got Bill, who's the MAGA guy, and we got Jeff, who's the whiny Alan Colmes liberal. That's how I define you two guys. that may be too wrong.
Well, 180 degrees flip because Jeff actually was on Rick Santorum's presidential committee when he was running.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, really got some great.
But if one of you suddenly turned up on Al Jazeera, and you're like, death to all infidels, and let's go to the phone lines. How can we destroy America? I'd go, I don't get that guy. I thought he was like a regular American, and he used to do a talk show in Denver, and now he's doing some weird thing.
Now, see,
makes no difference to me how people make a living, but I think I'd rather have a JD Vance who, whatever he does for the rest of his life, he's going to be the same guy.
And that's why I can't be in politics, because Jeff has things like values and principles. And he would say, no, I can't do that. And if Al Jazeera called me, I'm like, just tell me how many zeros at the end of the check, and then we can talk about it. And do I have a parking space?
Well, and going back to Amber Rose, I always find it interesting when people cross the divisions, right? And in this case, she was on the left. She thought Donald Trump was racist. And now she's willing to come over and say, no, I'm really a big supporter of his. And when you start hanging out with conservatives, Amber Rose, maybe a little regular church attendance starts happening. And, there's some good stuff that could happen there. I'm not fully in the kind of Matt Walsh camp that it's a terrible thing that she spoke last night. I think
it's a great thing.
And that's a good point. And it is something that your listeners in Denver and online across the country ought to be considering as they watch I knew this would happen. Everybody was saying, could it be Vivek Ramaswamy? Could it be Marco Rubio? My wife was saying, I really wish it would be, I think she wanted JD Vance, but somebody said it might be Nikki Haley. He might surprise everyone. I said, it really doesn't matter who Trump picks. All of them have the dirty secrets, from the time they stole money at the high school bake sale to, they ran over a dog and didn't tell the owner. They have dirt on everybody. And as soon as he picks one, they're going to hit send. And last night, there they all were. Rachel Maddow crying the crocodile tears. This is a guy who called Trump a Nazi. How can he run with it? This guy says Trump's a terrorist. Oh, great. Thanks, Rachel. Like, we're going to take our advice from you. Talk about inconsistency. She's on there with people like Joe Walsh, the congressman who used to be the Tea Party guy, but now MSNBC is paying him, so he's happy to be a Trump basher. Again, that's part of the game. Makes no difference to me how somebody makes it. Don Corleone said it best. Makes no difference to me how a man makes a living, mind you, as long as his interests don't conflict with mine. Okay, I get it. But how about if maybe we have a consistency and people do stand for something? The Republican Party used to be the conservative party. The Democratic Party used to be the liberal party, but still was sort of patriotic. Now they're basically, Hamas. And the Republicans, everybody's trying to paint them as this right-wing cabal. They're not. They're just men and women who want to return to normal values and have America have a strong defense and not stab Israel in the back the way that Biden has done so many times. And I think there's going to be a really clear contrast. And if you like paying $6 for a dozen eggs and you don't mind filling up your car and having to take out a loan for it, and you think it's okay that our number one ally in the Middle East gets stabbed in the back by Tony Blinken and Biden, then vote Democratic. And if you'd rather move our country in a different direction and a better direction, you're going to vote Republican. And it's just that simple.
Oh, that's a wonderful message. Tom Tradup, Vice President of News and Talk Programming at Salem Radio Network, here with Jeff and Bill Live. We've seen that on the ground here inside of the suburb of Aurora. The City Council of Aurora actually had some avowed socialists on a number of years ago. Conservatives got together and said, no. You see what they're doing. You see the stuff they've been proposing. And now conservatives, along with a conservative mayor, run Aurora. And Aurora is lapping Denver based on rules, based on immigration problems, based on budget, based on everything that the people, the average family discusses around the table. Aurora is going like gangbusters right now, while Denver is still trying to find out exactly where the map is. I want to talk to you, just before we let you go, a little bit about the idea of DeSantis being persona non grata and Nikki Haley being welcomed back into the fold, given that she was the last one standing. What's your reaction to the different treatment of both of Donald Trump's primary opponents? Why is one accepted back in the fold and the other one not? It's so far, in your opinion.
Well, I don't know that DeSantis is not. I mean, do you have some empirical evidence that he's persona non grata? I mean,
that'd be fair, but I'm saying he doesn't have a speaking platform. Right. He's not there, and then I guess so. I may have overstepped the bounds there, but he's outside, and he was one of the appointed ones if Trump wasn't going to run, and that seems different for me.
Yeah, when people ask me who I wanted for vice president, I said, believe it or not, I'd rather have Ron DeSantis because he's like Trump. He's got a lot of executive experience. Most of Trump's was, by the way, in the White House. Everybody goes, oh, he's a big executive. Well, no, being on TV and going, you're fired, to Trace Adkins isn't a lot of executive experience. Running his real estate company wasn't executive experience. So he got, as a novice, got into government and didn't have a lot of executive experience, but really did an amazing job for this country. DeSantis, he's got it all. He just ran against Trump, against good advice from some of his advisors. This wasn't his year. And I don't know why he doesn't have a speaking role at the convention, other than if Trump doesn't want him to have a role, or the RNC doesn't trust him. They don't want another Ted Cruz situation from 2016. Cruz showed up and they gave him a speaking role, and everybody thought he was going to sing Kumbaya and back Trump. And he essentially got up and said, yeah, we all stand for conservative values, but if you don't like anybody on the ticket, vote your conscience. Thanks, everybody. I'm going back to Texas. And people were booing him and throwing, feces at him as he went out the door. And that may be why DeSantis isn't here. I can't really tell you. I was surprised, and I would have loved to see Ron DeSantis be the vice presidential pick, but I'm perfectly happy with JD Vance. I just want somebody who's going to complement Trump in terms of energy and enthusiasm. And Trump is no ham sandwich, as you know. I mean, here's a guy. I have to say this. I know you got to go, but if you saw Margaret Brennan from CBS, she was one of many people going, gee, the dialogue is so bad, and everybody had to lower their temperature on the dialogue. And even Trump, I mean, when he got up after getting shot, he waved his fist and yelled, fight, fight, fight. I'm like, hey, honey, I got an idea. Here's a great idea. A guy gets shot in the head. Maybe we let him say whatever he wants to. How's that?
Here.
We're not going to clear that with CBS News. But, well, what do I know?
Oh, that's fantastic.
We're talking with Tom Tradup. He's the Vice President of News and Talk Programming at Salem Radio Network. He's going to be joining us each of these dates for the remainder of the week during the 9 o'clock hour to give us an update from the convention. Tom, one of the text messages we got here from 5442, this guy is great. So we're going to look forward to having you back tomorrow and the remainder days of the week. Thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show, Tom.
My pleasure. God bless you guys for what you're doing. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So we'll continue to hear from him, as well as Greg Cluckston, White House news correspondent from Salem, throughout the week. And then I've asked a member of the Colorado delegation each day to join us as well. We heard from Randy Corporon. Tomorrow is going to be Hugo Chavez-Ray. Billy, you and Hugo can get all into that. They do on the text messages all the time. So it's going to be absolutely fire coverage of the RNC convention. No other station in Colorado is going to provide this depth analysis and folks coming in and giving you the insight the way 710 KNUS is going to. Hey, the Jeff and Bill Show was the top-rated talk radio show by Westward. Well, our friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration were the top-rated hair restoration company by Westward as well. So they're good. Everyone always asks, what makes Advanced Hair Restoration different? Allow me to share, along with some details on, get this, their once-a-year summer savings event. First off, Advanced Hair stands by the results, and their before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. And secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. And lastly, Advanced Hair's Advance FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. It's quick, it's simple, and it's easy. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, it's here. Advanced Hair's summer savings event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer ever. For details and to schedule your free consultation, give them a call at 720-459-HAIR. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Before and afters at advancedhair.com. That's 720-459-HAIR. or advancedhair.com. We'll continue with your calls and texts next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Rome, I'm Giles Gibson, and here are the top stories we're following. Former President Donald Trump has announced that he'll be running for President of the United States with JD Vance by his side. Haley Bianco reports.
Vance is 39 years old, and he is serving his first term as a U.S. Senator for Ohio. Vance rose to fame in 2016 with his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, about growing up poor in Appalachia. It's since turned into a Netflix movie. Back in 2016, Vance was a fierce critic of Trump. But since 2018, Vance has embraced Trump, who endorsed him when he ran for Senate in 2022. Trump made his VP announcement during the Republican National Convention. He's in Milwaukee to accept his party's nomination. It comes just 2 days after Trump survived an attempted assassination. If a bullet had struck just a little bit to the right, Trump likely would have been killed or seriously injured.
The FBI says it can now access a phone belonging to Thomas Matthew Crooks, the suspect in the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Officials say the shooting at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania on Saturday is also being investigated as a potential act of domestic terrorism. So far, though, investigators have not found any evidence that could suggest a potential motive. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Giles Gibson in Rome on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. My goodness, Billy, what a show we've had. Chris Murray joining us in the 6 o'clock hour to give us an analysis of the Trump classified trial being dismissed, at least for the current time being, till Jack Smith put together an appeal. That was a great conversation. Randy Corporon in the 7 o'clock hour, giving us his take on the RNC convention in Wisconsin taking place right now. We're going to continue to talk to Colorado delegates throughout the week, so you're not going to want to miss that. Greg Cluckston, White House news correspondent from Salem, joined us in the 8 o'clock hour, as well as Greg Lopez, giving us insight into what it means to be a congressman first week. And he hasn't found the restroom quite yet, so still working on where all that is. But he gets to ride a little fancy train, Billy. Did you know that?
He does.
Just
Yeah,
ride a little fancy train in the Capitol.
It's gonna be cool. I just love the idea that, again, smartest man in Colorado politics, because dude gets the job short term, can't really do anything too big or too small, and gets to call himself former congressman. That is fantastic.
But I did get an email yesterday from Lauren Boebert's opponent that was very angry and riling up her base that if Lauren gets elected one more time, she gets that lifetime pension benefit.
Oh, okay.
So, but Greg will not get that.
Yeah,
Greg will not.
No,
get
he
that.
won't. He won't. That's an interesting. And again, we won't go into that one. But that's an interesting idea that the members of Congress get their own pension benefits based on service when they aren't willing to do that for anybody else, especially individuals on the conservative side that don't like unions. I mean, again, it's really weird.
They get all that insider stock trading. So
Exactly.
you get to build this personal financial wealth, because how much is Joe Biden worth?
exactly.
His entire life's been in government service. He's worth like $30 million or something like that. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
So they get all this personal wealth built up. Oh, and by the way, here's a pension.
Yeah. And I've said for years, if you want Obamacare fixed, make everybody in Congress have to buy their plans from Obamacare. You want this thing fixed tomorrow? That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
Billy, I think we do that. I think you don't get a paycheck unless there's a balanced budget.
Yes.
And you can't trade stocks, and you don't get a pension.
Absolutely.
Because seriously, if you're that successful, getting elected to Congress, which is not easy.
No.
You don't need a pension from the government.
And the issue is everybody walks out of there being wealthy as well. So you don't need the pension. But the other part is that I'd always like the idea of all the people who vote against reforming healthcare or vote against unions and stuff, but yet take the benefits of those same things for themselves. Again,
hypocrisy in government?
Never.
I've never heard of such a thing,
Yes,
Billy.
but then again, we have a former vice president who said the earth is burning, we're all going to die, and then flew around his private plane everywhere. So, yes, it's not like one side has
and another one that shot dude in the face and then just went home.
Exactly. It's exactly it, man. This is why things are so screwed up.
I think I saw the other day that Joe Biden's Kamala Harris's approval rating is still below the lowest point of Dick Cheney's after he shot the dude in the face.
Oh, that's ridiculous. but earned. That's the other part. But earned so far. So, oh, man.
Hey, I want to talk to you about my friends at QC Kinetics. Life in Colorado is awesome this time of year, but not so much if you've got joint pain in your knees and shoulders. Hey, it's Jeff Hunt. The good news is that QC Kinetics is here with the most advanced treatments using regenerative medicine. They harness the healing power from your own body to restore and repair your damaged joint tissue. Got a chance to go over and visit their operation. Really delightful people. We've got a buddy, Joel, here is getting some of the treatment done, and it sure is helping him. In fact, he told me the other day he went hiking with his wife up in the mountains, was able to do a 5-mile hike, hasn't had to deal with the pain from that. First time in years he's felt that good. QC Kinetics can get you moving again, too, with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. This is the future of medicine, and the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics can get you started with a free consultation. They have clinics in Aurora and Superior. If your shoulder back is always hurting, if it hurts to walk or lift something, you need to check them out and get lasting relief. Do it now so you can enjoy the Colorado summertime like you deserve. Next generation joint pain relief is here at QC Kinetics, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986. Get a free consultation today or visit qckinetics.com. All right, let's go to Joan, Lakewood. Joan, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you all?
Doing
We're
good.
doing
How are you?
great. Yeah.
Are you there?
Yes, we are. Are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
I'm
good.
here.
Good. How's your day
calling
going?
because I was the fourth alternate delegate in CD7, so I can give you the outside opinion of what a delegate would think.
Please do.
Yeah,
Are
what do you
you
think?
up there in Wisconsin?
No, I'm not. I'm here. I'm actually here at the the Lakewood City building. I'm looking to see if their flags are at half-mast. I went to the county Taj Mahal today, and their flags were not at half-mast. And I went in, and now they are at half-mast.
They got the
and then
order from the gov.
Well, yeah, well, you know what? Our county commissioners don't listen to the governor. They were told they were supposed to lower our mill levy, and they didn't. So, you know, here in Jefferson County, we're doing our own thing, and it's not for the good of the people. Anyway, I wanted to tell you a couple of things. One, I think that JD Vance is a awesome pick.
Yeah, why do you like him? I'll be honest, it kind of falls a little flat for me.
Well, here's the deal. We've got Brittany Patterson here in Jefferson County, and every election she tells us about her poor mother who was an addict, and she plays the victim card. And the truth of the matter is JD was in worse straits than she was, and hasn't played the victim card to my knowledge, and pulled himself up and made something out of himself. A very, very good story about businessmen.
Go ahead.
Well, I think that as you get to know him a little better, I also think that it's a generational thing.
Yeah.
And I honestly and sincerely believe that the Republican Party has had to turn over some of its power to the next generation, or they will lose.
To those young millennials like myself. Joan from Lakewood, I really appreciate the call. Please keep giving us your perspective, and we want to hear from our listeners throughout the week. What are you seeing at the RNC convention? What's troubling you? What's inspiring you? We want all those details throughout the week, so give us a call, 303-696-1971. Look, with all the work I've had done to my teeth, I have genetic issues there. Believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to tell you about Dr. Mike at the Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If your gums are receding, it's critical to address this issue properly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. So what are you waiting for? The procedure only makes a small hole in the tissue and gently repositions the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
We're going to continue to bring you the very best news coming from the RNC convention. You're not going to want to miss this. Be with us all week long. 710knus.com for all the podcasts, all the details right there. No one's going to do it better than us this week. You've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a good day.